Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Boxing Coalition. My name is Cam. Joining me tonight, Naota, and also hopefully Leon will be on later on. Leon's crazy, man. Every time almost before every show, I'll get a text saying, "I'm running late. I'll be in 20 minutes into the show." And like, good job. You know, he works for himself, because if he had the job, like, he would have got sacked by now if he's always turning up to work late. So, Naota, what's happening, man? Naota.
Oh, sorry about that. I was muted. But lots of stuff to talk about, man. You know,
So many fights.
This is the say what?
So many fights, so little time.
Yeah, and you know, this is the day of the day of redemption for me, I guess, right? You know, a lot of stuff that I've been saying for years now kind of came to pass, didn't it?
Well, let's get into it, man. Two of your favorite fighters in the whole wide world squared off together. So let's get into the main fight of the weekend: Lomachenko versus, or should I call him No-Mas-Chenko now, versus Rigondeaux. Give us your take on the fight.
Yeah, fight of the year between two of the greatest fighters of all time, top 5 dead or alive. No, I'm just playing, but I mean, it went pretty much how I said it was going to go. You know, even going back to when it was signed, I was saying that this was going to be an easy fight for Lomachenko. He could win it however the fuck he chose to. To me, it was a total mismatch. To me, Rigondeaux hasn't really done much of anything since the Donaire win. And even then, I thought that Donaire win was overrated, and he was very carefully choosing his opposition. While, in the midst of he was being avoided by the likes of Santa Cruz, Frampton, and Quigg, but there was more fighters than them out there, for him to fight. Guys that were even calling him out, between Escandon, Hugo Ruiz, Julio Ceja, Ray Vargas, who actually he had the opportunity to fight a couple years ago, but he backed away from negotiations with him. But as it stands with this fight, the first round, I'd say the first round and a half, funny enough, looked a lot like an amateur fight. It looked like the two of them kind of going back to their Olympic days and stuff. Their AIBA World Championship days, measuring out each other. But pretty much once it got to the point where Lomachenko was comfortable starting to let his hands go and kind of feigning Rigondeaux into position, it just kind of exposed Rigondeaux's pretty much total lack of an inside game, which I had questioned, all this time. And then also, Lomachenko, I think, kind of realized that he was just that tick faster than Rigondeaux, where he could actually feint, then lead, then counter off his own lead as Rigondeaux was trying to counter him back. And, that reach advantage that Rigondeaux had, I think, I think people overblow wingspan quite a bit, simply because of the fact that, wingspan and armpit to the end of the fist are two completely different things. Armpits at the end of the fist is really true reach. Wingspan is just how far your arms spread apart, but you're not like going side to side against somebody in a boxing ring like that. It's like the total wingspan really doesn't make a difference. It really makes a difference how far your arm goes out from your body.
Yeah, because sometimes you can
have
a really
I think
wide
that was
back.
shorter. I think that was considerably shorter with these two. And I mean, Lomachenko's a good judge of distance, and in spite of the fact that a lot of people were even considering Lomachenko's size advantage in there, he didn't so much make use of that size to really bully Rigondeaux so much as he did to keep Rigondeaux from bullying him in those clinches. Because Rigondeaux initiated quite a few clinches, and Lomachenko several times would at least be able to free one of his arms and keep working it. And he did really what I like a lot of fighters to do in clinches, which is, keep working, keep throwing punches, because there's a lot of fighters. Like, I mean, it reminds me of when Timothy Bradley fought against Devin Alexander. Alexander's another fighter without much of an inside game, and Bradley very much exposed that, especially with regard to when Alexander would clinch him. Bradley would keep just ratcheting off numerous combination punches in the midst of the clinch or breaking his own clinch, and he was very successful at catching Alexander with a lot of shots that he really didn't expect. And it was kind of the same thing here with Lomachenko, especially because of the fact that Rigondeaux very frequently was just kind of bending over, almost not unlike Vladimir Klitschko back in the day, and covering up his face. And beyond that, he really wasn't trying to set up counter punches, trying to set up any kind of offense. He was just trying to completely protect himself. And he got caught up on the forehead, caught around the temples. There were a few times as the rounds kind of pressed on where Lomachenko caught him with really nice jabs, just nice straight jabs, just popped his head back. And really it just looked like Rigondeaux was intimidated, and it got to the point where he was so far down on the cards and he was starting to get embarrassed. And I think the round before they actually stopped it, I thought he was buzzed for a moment or two, and he started really, grabbing on to Lomachenko's arms, causing the point deduction and all that. And at that point, it was pretty much a no-win situation unless he wanted to go out in the shield, but apparently he didn't. And that's all there was to it. Lomachenko got it.
Yeah, you kind of said it all. Initially, the first round you're talking about that, Rigo won it. I give him the first round only because I think Loma took it off. I don't really think Rigo took the round off him. I think Loma was just getting his eye in, and he just kind of catching Rigo's distance of how far he needs to be out. And Rigo kind of took the center of the ring. Nothing really much happened in the first. It was one of those just kind of almost a 10-10 round, but I gave it to Rigo. After that, Lomachenko just took over, man. I thought the jab was an incredible tool, doubling it, tripling it, making Rigo kind of lean to his left and low. And in that position, there's nothing really much you can do. You can only really unleash a good left uppercut as a from a southpaw position. And Rigo was just very hesitant. He wasn't throwing that many counters. Initially, I thought it was just a tactic to kind of let Lomachenko get a bit sloppy and then, catch him with a nice uppercut or a straight left or something. But it never materialized, and as the fight went on, he was getting more negative. Obviously, the holding continued. He got the point deduction. He got buzzed, as you said, I think, in the fifth. And I think the point deduction was a big part of the reason he quit. I think he thought, well, I've probably lost every round. I've got the point deduction. I don't want to get whitewashed by this dude. So it's crazy, man. If you get whitewashed and you take it on the chin and okay, this dude schooled me, it's a bad look, but it's a better look than quitting and like your whole career basically getting destroyed off one decision that you took in between rounds.
Right.
If your hands hurt, I totally understand. I wouldn't want to continue if my hands hurt, but you're this elite boxer that people put up there in this pedestal of pound for pound, even though I'm not the biggest pound for pound advocate. But you got another hand, man. It's a bit harsh to say, but use that, Go orthodox and use it as a straight right, or start shifting your feet and go orthodox southpaw, and right. Just use it, man. Like put an effort in, man. You talk all
There've
the
been numerous
shit.
fighters that have busted their hands, busted their elbows, busted part of their arm, and continued to win a fight, even against tough opposition.
Yeah,
Lomachenko did it against Piripino.
Yeah, exactly. When he bust his hand and then he continued, he didn't think, okay, I'll try and
now
get out of
he
this.
scored a couple of knockouts off of broken hands.
Exactly. And after all that shit you talked, or the person that controls your Twitter talked and put you in this situation, you can't just quit like that, Naota, man. You can't do that.
Yeah, and really, I think a lot of that really was the person controlling his Twitter, because like if you really like listen to Rigo, he's not that quick-witted. Like he's not bad, he's not like an idiot or anything, but it's pretty, and it's not to the extent where like he'd be able to just like ratchet off, those type of insults in English like that, So, he was getting very good controlled kind of social media, but he really let a lot of people down. There was this whole like cult of personality surrounding this guy for years, where it's like people had like this collective delusion, almost like the fucking Jim Jones cult. And I'm not talking about the rapper. I'm talking
Dipset.
about I'm talking about the drink the Kool-Aid guy, that guy. Where like people, they believe this like alternative reality where like Rigo could do no wrong and he was like the most feared and most ducked fighter of all time. And it's kind of funny because there's a lot of people that saying like, oh, like Rigo's fighting against the machine and he's fighting against the powers that be, and yet the powers that be, or at least, I assume that ESPN and Ring and some of these ranking systems are the powers that be, had this motherfucker ranked in the top 10 nonstop for the past 5 years or so. So I mean, I'm not exactly sure where that comes in, where they had this complete opposition to the guy. But be that as it may, he went in there, and once he really started to having to fight against adversity, he buckled. He buckled under the pressure, and he buckled in a way where, honestly, I think this was Lomachenko's easiest fight. I think this was his easiest fight. I don't think Rigondeaux provided any more of a challenge than Nicholas Walters did. I don't think he provided any more of a challenge than Pierre Pino did, or even I can't recall the guy's name off the top of my head. The pro debut that Lomachenko had, the 10-rounder, where he ended in a few rounds. I think that guy provided way more
Jose Ramirez
opposition. There you go. Yeah, Jose Ramirez. I remember Mars fought him too. What do you call it? He provided at the very least some sort of resistance. He at least went out on the shield. And we'll get to him later. Salido went out on his shield. Even though he was getting just brutalized in there, or at least he eventually got brutalized. It was a good fight, but we'll get to that. But you gotta bite down on your gum shield and get through those situations. But Rigo's he was just out of his depth. I knew that he was. Lomachenko, for all the critique and the criticism that I've given him, it's more so because I feel like a lot of the accolades people have hoisted upon him, and I still do, are premature. But he is a quality fighter, and he's a quality fighter several levels above the guys that Rigondeaux has been fighting lately, and especially since Donaire, and even including Donaire. The only other tough fights that Rigo's had really were against Nonito himself, Ricardo Cordoba, which was, for his first title many years ago, which he won by split decision. And then I guess you could probably toss in maybe Marroquin and Hisashi Yamagasa in there. But who are Hisashi Yamagasa and Roberto Marroquin to be given a guy that's supposedly a top pound for pound of these tough fights? So, to me, it was the writing was on the wall. I had seen some of Rigondeaux's amateur fights where he struggled very particularly with guys with very quick hands and quick feet that could close the distance very fast. Your Gary Russells, your Rashid Warrens, your Abner Marzes. And to me, Lomachenko had all those qualities, and then along with the size and strength advantage, should he need to put that into play, which he really didn't. And he didn't make much use of outside of just, like I said before, kind of breaking out of Rigondeaux's figure four leg locks and shit, and continuing to beat over the head.
Neota, just in your previous sentence earlier, it sounds like you're, slowly jogging after the Lomachenko bandwagon. Do you want me to outreach my arm and pull you aboard, or you still? Come on, bro. Nah. Just join us, bro.
Nah. Still not the top fighter at super featherweight. He's still got somebody to beat before he's able to claim that. Partially thanks to Alberto Machado. I think he should send Alberto Machado like a fruit basket for Christmas or something. Because getting rid of Jezreel Corrales off of that list, I think he did him a favor. But I think Berchelt still stands out there as the top super featherweight.
Nah, come on, bro. Like Berchelt, who's he beat? Berchelt, man, come on. Miura.
Vargas, he stopped. He actually stopped Fury Pino where Lomachenko failed to. And,
yeah, but you said it yourself, man. He had a hand injury. He retired him. He had a hand injury, bro.
Berchelt had a hand injury against Takashi Miura. He was a tougher fighter than pretty much anybody that Lomachenko's fought.
Come on, man. Miura just throws a big left hand. That's it. He's basic as fuck, bro.
I think Miura versus had Miura not retired, I think he would have been a great fight to see against Lomachenko, because kind of like Kimo alluded to the other day, the type of fighters that really give Lomachenko problems and that could potentially beat him are other very, very skilled technical fighters, like your Mikey Garcias, your Jorge Linares, for instance, or guys that have that don't give a fuck attitude, your Salidos, your Miuras, maybe even Roman. I think Mariaga had a little bit of that, even though he, was caught in a short notice, kind of was out of his depth, out of his weight class. But I think Mariaga, at the very least since Gary Russell, has given Lomachenko more resistance than any opponent. And that's a big part of the reason why I rate that, performance of Lomachenko is a little bit higher than the other ones, because of the fact that he had to stick to his technical boxing. He wasn't able to get away with the tricks, like the tricks that aren't necessarily stuff that you score in boxing. It's flashy and fun for the crowd to watch, and all that rah-rah stuff, but It's not necessarily something where it's like you're actually landing, clean, effective punches. I mean, you can land clean, effective punches off of that, but there's a lot of liability there, and especially defensively. And Mariaga was able to somewhat punish him for it. When you rally, he beckoned him into the corner. He got hit with a 3-punch combo by Mariaga after he did that. So and that was because Mariaga had that mentality, like, I don't care what your reputation is. I'm gonna try my hardest to knock you out. I'm gonna try my hardest to hurt you. And so, it's one of those cases where Lomachenko hasn't necessarily had to fight very much of that adversity since the Salido fight, and so it kind of remains to be seen with him still. But I do definitely rate him higher than where I had rated Rigondeaux before, and not even necessarily off of this win. I had kind of done that before, like I said, with the Mariaga win. I think that win to me really proved more than anything post Salido to me about Lomachenko's quality as a fighter, even though it was against a guy coming up.
Naotia, my boy, YouTube comments are going to be crazy tomorrow, man. People are going to be hating on you for putting Berchelt above Lomachenko. I like Berchelt, but there's no way I could put him top at 130. If you look at the very few fights that Lomachenko has had in the professional game, it's probably up to number 3. Is probably better than anything that Berchelt's done. Salido in your second fight, Gary Russell in your third fight.
But what has Lomachenko been doing at 130?
That doesn't
what
matter.
What has he been doing compared to what he's been doing at 126?
You have to incorporate what he's done before. You can't just disregard that.
You can, but you can't just incorporate that and put him head and shoulders over everybody at the next weight class. Otherwise, Jermall Charlo should be like the number 2 middleweight, which he shouldn't be.
No.
Golovkin and Canelo should belong above him. Daniel Jacobs belongs above him. Ryota Murata belongs above him.
No, that's a valid point, but I think you have to. It has to be a collective of what they've done before and what they've done so far. I think his performance against Sosa was excellent. Making Walters quit, It
was, but he did have an opportunity to fight Miguel Berchelt. Berchelt was his mandatory. After Lomachenko beat Martinez, he was Martinez's mandatory, and Martinez very blatantly ducked him. They were about to fight in 2 weeks, and then he pulls out with a hurt hand. And then all of a sudden, the fight with Lomachenko was signed a few days later. And they told Berchelt to fuck off. And so Vargas actually stepped up to the plate. He put his balls on the line, and unfortunately for Vargas, he got his soul snatched. Although maybe not so much, because he just won. But Berchelt made it look easy against Vargas. He made him look like a shot fighter, like you and Kimo talked about the other day. He made him look like a shot fighter, and I think based off of this past weekend's performance, you can say that Vargas isn't. He's not a shot fighter. Berchelt just did so much fucking damage to him that he made him look that way.
No, I was very impressed. I was very impressed when Berchelt beat Vargas. He kind of systematically broke him down. But I was unimpressed real quick, Cam, before you keep going. Before all of these guys kind of emerged at super featherweight, the top 2 at super featherweight were Takashi Uchiyama and Takashi Miura. They were the top 2. Corrales dethroned Uchiyama out of that top spot by knockout. So I don't think it really gets more emphatic than that as a win at super featherweight. Honestly, to me, that's still the best win of any super featherweight any super featherweight has had in the past few years. Of course, Machado knocked out Corrales in spite of the fact that he was losing the fight. I wouldn't rate Machado over Lomachenko, and that's by virtue of body of work. Lomachenko has accumulated a slight advantage in body of work at super featherweight compared to Machado, because Machado's only notable win is the Corrales fight, and a fight that he was losing up until the knockout. So, honestly, I think I'm being slightly, if I was truly a hater of Lomachenko, I would rate Machado above him too. To me, giving Lomachenko the props over Machado, even though Machado is the one that knocked out the number 1 guy, quote unquote, is me being honest. And then with Berchelt, a lot of it has to do with the fact that, look, Lomachenko lost to Salido, period, point blank. It's all there is to it, regardless of whether you disagree with how the fight was refereed or scored or what have you. He lost. Vargas, he drew with Salido, arguably beat him, and Berchelt made Vargas look like a chump. He made him look like a shot fighter. So just going off of a tier, you have to rate Berchelt's win over Vargas very highly based off of that. You have to rate his
dominant and destructive knockout over Piripino, where Piripino hasn't even fought since. He's probably done with boxing. You have to rate that. So, that's just the way that I see it, man. Miura and Vargas are excellent wins for Berchelt, and then Piripino, he's a common point between the two of them, and between the two of them, Berchelt has the more emphatic victory over him.
Okay, just going back to my point. So, major respect to Berchelt for his performance against Vargas, but I think he just showed Miura too much respect. He's so uncomfortable on the back foot. He won the fight comfortably, but his performance against Miura was very poor for me. I just think he had the wrong game plan. Yeah, he was.
He broke his hand in that fight too. That's what I was alluding to.
Okay,
earlier.
that's fair. But you talking about Alberto Machado? So if people don't know, he stopped Jezreel Corrales a couple of weeks ago, was it? 6
Yeah, it was on
weeks?
HBO. I mean, people should be aware of that. People saying that they don't know who Alberto Machado is, well, then you must not watch fucking HBO boxing.
But my point,
in which case, you should know who Lomachenko is.
But my point is, like, after one win, which the majority of that fight he was losing, you can't put him even close to Lomachenko. I know you said that, yeah, you have got him below Lomachenko, but for me, he has to be a few levels below Lomachenko.
Well, I mean, not necessarily. It's all about ranking. It's about who's number 1 versus number 2 versus number 3 versus number 4. I mean, to me, just off of the knockout alone, I'd have to rate him over Corrales because he won the fucking fight. So, I mean, at that point, who would you really rate above
but he was
him?
losing into that point now. You can't just say, okay, right.
He was, but if you win the fight, you belong over the guy that you just beat.
No, that's fair, but I think you also have to put other things into consideration. You can't just be black and white like that.
Well, I mean, I do, but I mean, who else really is out there at 130? I mean, the 130 guys have been kind of cleaning each other out. Miura retired, Uchiyama retired. Corrales belongs below Machado. Kenichi Ogawa and Tevin Farmer didn't exactly look like incredible fighters this past weekend. Jason Sosa struggled against an ancient Gamboa. A Gamboa that got stopped by Castellanos. I mean, I guess you could put Castellanos above Machado, which I wouldn't argue with. But but even there, officially he lost that fight. I don't think that he was losing that fight up until that point. But there's a case to be made there.
Okay.
Rene Alvarado, I guess you could put in there because he just beat down Denis Shafikov. Got a split decision, but he beat him up, and that's a great win. But beyond that though, like I said, 130 has been kind of cleaning itself out. The guys that Lomachenko hasn't necessarily been fighting recently, whether it's his fault or not, have kind of cleaned, put each other through the ringer in the midst of Lomachenko, fighting some of these other guys. And really, to me, 130 has become a bit of a top-heavy division. There's like the top 2 guys, and then there's everybody else.
All right, now to quickly, because we burnt 30 minutes quite quick. What's your thoughts on Rigo now? Basically retire?
Honestly, I mean, he could continue. In spite of all my criticisms towards the guy, I
think he's in a difficult position though. Like after that very bad quit, like what direction can you go on? Like you can't talk smack anymore. Well, or the guy that controls his Twitter account.
I think O'Hara Davies would disagree with that, but I mean, there's still a lot of people under the collective delusion that Rigo was ducked by Abner fucking Mars for God's sake, which I think is hilarious because I have proof. I have objective proof on Boxing Scene to the contrary. He could go down to featherweight, fight the likes of him and some of the other Heyman guys, if they can even do business with Heyman, which seems unlikely. But hey, the stranger things have happened. Valdez, he could fight Oscar Valdez. Valdez has been a reasonably vulnerable guy. He could go back down to 122 and try to run it back with Ray Vargas, who he ducked. He could fight Jesse Magdaleno, who called him out. Although maybe he's been soured on doing business with Top Rank now because of the all the shit that he's gone through with Lomachenko. I mean, who knows? I think he's still a viable fighter. At 122 or 126, and should he decide to choose his career, I don't think he'll do terribly badly. If he gets beat up, beat down, and exposed again by one of those guys, then sure, maybe it's time to hang it up. But beyond that, I mean, I think there's still more for him. It's like Roman Gonzalez. He he just got knocked out by 3 seconds to Rungvisai. But now, they're still talking about him possibly fighting Kalyafai. I think should he move down to flyweight, he'd still be a top operator.
Yeah, but Naoto, he got knocked out. He didn't quit.
Yeah, but arguably that's a for the toll that it takes on your body. That's a worse loss. That's a worse loss than just packing it in and avoiding the further punishment. Psychologically, yeah, that's a bad look for Rigondeaux. But physically, he's still a viable fighter, a viable contender, a viable whatever you want a viable pugilist at 122 and 126, and he's still a fighter of interest to me, and I think he should still be of interest to many people against the likes of Gary Russell and Valdez and Leo Santa Cruz and Ray Vargas and Jesse Magdaleno, so on and so forth, et al.
Yeah, it's difficult for me because Just made a good point in the chat. He said no one's going to fight Rigo. He's in the Who Wants Him club. And I kind of agree. I think a lot of people are going to look at him now as like high risk, low reward, because if they lose against him, like they lost against the guy that Loma schooled, and if they win, they're going to think, well, he's a broken man now. He's the kind of leftovers of Lomachenko, so I think he's in a difficult position. And plus, he's old as well, man. It's like he's not a spring chicken.
That's true, but I think he's still of value to a certain level of fighter, particularly the kind of the prospect / contender on the come up, where I think there's a few guys that would probably gun for him, especially guys that are good inside fighters that feel like they have that he has some give to him in that type of a fight. But who knows if he's going to fight those guys, considering how hesitant he was to fight some of these guys that I mentioned before, in the past. But I think those fights, if he wants them, are out there for him.
Yeah, and quickly on your new favorite fighter, Lomachenko, you see any maybe unifications, or do you think his next move will be at lightweight?
Yeah. I think they'll probably move him up to lightweight. I think Aram's on the track with, he's fully in the club of like, oh, we're going to use Mikey Garcia's name to promote all of Lomachenko's next several fights, the same way that he did with Manny and Floyd. He kept bringing up Floyd Mayweather. Oh, Floyd doesn't want it. Floyd's going to get stopped. Floyd doesn't want it. And he did that for years until they finally fought. And I think that's what he's going to do with Garcia and Lomachenko. I don't think that he's going to let any former client of his get over on him, even if there's a chance that they'd get over on him. So I don't expect to see that fight. Let me think. I don't think they'll fight Berchelt. I think he's a high-risk, low-reward opponent, and I think that's why they avoided him in the first place. By way of how they see it, I think they consider him a high-risk, low-reward guy. I see him maybe making one more defense at 130 and then moving up to 135, once things kind of clear up there, and especially if Garcia and Easter potentially move up out of the division and vacate their belts. Or he might fight for the WBO, which it seems like it might be did Flanagan vacate it already, or was he about to?
Yeah, he's vacated it, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So that's the bus door wide open right there. I see somebody mentioned Berchelt. Wait, no. Actually, I thought they said Beltran. I think Beltran would be an interesting fight from Lomachenko. I actually like that fight. Beltran, especially because they like to compare Lomachenko to Terence Crawford. He's a guy that I don't necessarily. If Lomachenko were to make Beltran quit, that's a serious win. That's a serious win.
I don't think he would make him quit, but I think he'd beat him down for 12 rounds. Like, Beltran's good, but he's very basic, does the same things over and over again.
No, he is, but I think it's one of those situations where it's easier said than done. He's a very tough fighter, a very hard fighter, a very strong fighter. So while I definitely think that Lomachenko is a bit more skilled than him, a little bit more talented than him naturally, Beltran at the very least has that size and that power to I think at the very least make Lomachenko kind of stick to more of a technical game plan as opposed to a flashy one, and give him at the very least a hard fought win, if nothing else.
Yeah,
but if best case scenario, a good fight.
Yeah.
I think Linares is the type of guy that Top Rank would probably love for Lomachenko to fight because of the fact that even though he's dangerous, so to speak, from a perspective of how skilled he is, he has huge liabilities with his chin and with his skin. cuts very easily, and he's chinny, and also his head kind of goes out in the cloud sometimes, and he lets fighters back into fights that he should be dominating. So, there's a good risk versus reward ratio there. But I like that fight though personally still.
No, I think that's a good fight, man, because I think Linares, he can counter in combination, so I think like both of them, just like the first and the third, would be very interesting, man. Like both guys, kind of looking to the other guy to counter, and I think it'd be very interesting. I still favour Lomachenko, but with the hand speed of both guys, with the combination punching, but also the countering in combinations, I think that's an excellent fight. But just going back,
I think Lomachenko would actually have to be more of a pressure fighder in that fight.
Which he can do though. He can do that.
Yeah, no, he can. He can. I'm not saying that he can't. I'm saying that that's a style we don't typically see from him necessarily against a guy that I think would be a little bit quicker than him on the draw from the first punch thrown, and quicker on the escape too. I think Linares is just slightly quicker than Lomachenko with his hands and with his feet, and he's taller and longer. So that's a certain level of adversity that Lomachenko would have to fight through, and something that's of interest to me.
Yeah, for me at lightweight it would definitely be Linares or Mikey, if Mikey decides to make a run at that, or if he stays at 140, I'm not sure. But with Raimundo Beltran, I don't know. It's not really a fight that I'd be too interested in, aka trying to get his green card, aka little brother of Caleb Truax. Every time I was watching that DeGale fight, I thought, there's Raimundo Beltran fighting, man. What's going on? He looked so much like him in the ring.
Yeah, especially the way that he fought him.
Yeah, it was crazy. But just down at super feather. For me, Lomachenko, if he doesn't either fight Gervonta Davis or Berchelt, then you might as well move on. He's kind of, there's no other fights that really interest me.
They're not going to throw Davis in there with him.
I agree, but that's the only two fights that super feather that interest me, and if they don't happen, just go up then. Yeah. All right. Anything else regarding the fight or Lomachenko or Rigondeaux, Naoto?
No. The chickens, they came home to roost, and at least for Rigo they did. Unfortunately for Lomachenko, he can't really correct that loss to Salido now. If you were to find him now, it'd be kind of a farce. Not unlike, I guess, Klitschko when he eventually fought Lehman Brewster again. But hey, so you can at the very least wipe out old losses with new greater victories too. So
you never know
what he does.
I don't know about in the States, but over here, like, there's always issues with Uber. They get banned from certain cities by the councils and stuff. So if Uber gets banned from Mexico, Salido might have to come out of retirement.
Yeah, perhaps. Well, he doesn't just live he kind of goes back and forth between the U.S. and Mexico. So I know he has a house in Arizona somewhere. So
he does.
We'll see what happens.
He does Uber in Mexico and Lyft in the States, I think.
Yeah, perhaps.
Undercard wise, Naota, I can quickly, go through a bit of it. Did you watch anything?
I saw bits and pieces of it. I might have missed one fight somewhere in there, but go ahead and start, and I'll kind of keep up with you where I can.
Shakur Stevenson, I think they did switcheroo with the opponents of Michael Conlan. I think originally Conlan was supposed to fight Oscar Mendoza, who eventually fought Stevenson, and Molina, who was supposed to fight Stevenson, fought Conlan. But I'm high on Stevenson. I see a lot of criticism through my timeline, and I don't know. His judgment of distance is excellent. He takes these little half step backs, counters with the straight left. And when he's coming forward, jab to the head, straight left to the body, and he also throws right hook after the straight left counter sometimes as well. And he's sharp. His reflexes are good. His concentration is excellent. He's always got his eyes on his opponent. And I don't know, like for him being so young, and I don't know why people give him so much flack, but I'm really high on him. I can't wait.
I think a lot of it is just the Olympics. He kind of melted down against Ramirez, and then he really melted down after the fight. So
yeah, that's fair enough.
That combined with kind of what I was referring to earlier with Lomachenko and Rigondeaux, he has yet to find any kind of adversity as a pro compared to what he did in the Olympics. Any kind. These guys are small guys, chubby featherweights, and midgets, and like they really don't belong in the ring with Stevenson. Just from a size perspective. he's a pretty skilled fighter, but I see a certain level of fragility to him. You know, I think when somebody really presses him
Backs him
and
up.
backs him up, I don't think it's going to go well for him.
We'll see. He's still young. He's got time to mature. So, but I'm looking forward to kind of watching him evolve. You know, when you pick up someone young, like you can watch him for years, and you can kind of
He's really inexperienced. He didn't have that many amateur fights before he even made it to the Olympics. He was just kind of a natural, and he was a guy that really trained more as an amateur than he actually had fights. So in terms of actually putting the work and putting the rounds in, he has a ways to go. And I think he's going to be one of those top-ranked projects where they move him kind of slowly but surely, for the next couple of years before they really take a good risk for them.
Yep. What else did we have? The Conlon fight, did you see that? I think he injured his hand in the second. He turned southpaw and he kind of easily boxed and was kind of putting a beat down on Molina most of the fight.
Yeah. Honestly, I think they actually made the right decision of flip-flopping the two opponents, because Molina at the very least was a little bit more game than Mendoza was. I think that he was a scrappy fighter, in spite of the fact that, like Shakur Stevenson's opponent, he was way outmatched just based on size alone. Not to mention, background, but, Conlon did a solid job. But at the same time, he's going to be able to kind of beat these guys with whatever strategy he kind of uses. He can just beat them based off of natural talent alone, talent and size. And, I do think that he's reasonably skilled, but I just get this feeling he just reminds me too much of his brother. And I think once he gets towards that, kind of contender/champion level, especially at featherweight, the way it stands now, I don't think he's going to do well. Honestly, I think it seems like they're going to try to move him relatively quickly, but I'm not sure if they should do that necessarily. Or if they do, I think they're going to have to kind of choose the right opponents, choose the right champion at the right time, where, one of these guys that's not that great kind of picks up a belt, by happenstance, and then he could fight that guy. But the way the featherweight division is right now, it's a stacked division at the top, and I think any one of those guys could hand him an L within the next year or two.
Yeah, I disagree about him not being that much better than Jamie. I think he's a lot better than Jamie. Just technically, I think I think he has a lot more a much better skill set than Jamie. Jamie kind of just falls into this kind of getting into wars where Michael's a bit more strategic. He can fight on the outside. He can switch, and I agree. I think they're gonna have to carve a path for him. But I think eventually, you think he definitely can become a belt holder. But we'll see. The last fighter that I've never seen before that was on the undercard that was shown in the UK, Naoto, was Christopher Diaz, the dude from Puerto Rico. Never seen him before, but very impressed.
Yes, yeah, man, that was a great fight between those two, or rather, a great performance from Christopher Diaz. Bryant Cruz was a guy that's not too bad of a fighter. He had fought Ryan Martin previously, was a relatively well touted kind of prospect / contender. Is he still lightweight? I think he is. I know he had been kind of going between lightweight and light welterweight, but I think Diaz definitely took this guy out in way more emphatic fashion. He's one of those guys where he's relatively young, doesn't have a ton of fights under his belt. He's got 22 now, but he hits like a hammer, man. Like that left hook especially is a it's a thing of beauty, and I think especially right now, Puerto Rico's in need of some stardom. They got Angel Acosta, who just won his title last week. The Miguel Cotto's first promoted champion. But this guy, I think this guy stands as another guy to really look out for, especially because he's at a division that's a little bit more heralded in the States and worldwide, or in the Anglosphere at least. The guy hits like a brick with that left hook, especially. He has a pretty strong right hand as well. He was hurting Brian Cruz with pretty much everything he threw. He gets a little bit wild at times, but I think he kind of knew the opponent that was in front of him, so he could kind of afford to do that. I think he's definitely somebody to be looking out for right there at super featherweight, or maybe even featherweight if he can make that, because he didn't necessarily look like a huge 130 pounder to me. Or, maybe he'll just stay at super featherweight for a good while. He might be one of those guys that kind of grows into the weight class as it stands.
Yeah, I was impressed, as you say, with his power, but also his hand speed and his accuracy, and his timing and his combinations as well. Like everything, man. Like dude would like counter with like 3 shots, and you're looking at the screen like, was that left hand, right hand, left hand, or was it the other way around? It's like you couldn't tell because it was that quick. So really impressed.
Yeah, it was a virtuoso performance, the type of performance that's exactly the type of performance you want to put on display on a big undercard as a lead-in. That's exactly the type of performance that you want to put on, and he did it. He did it excellently, man. That was a great win for him. And like I kind of alluded to earlier, with super featherweight being kind of top heavy and Lomachenko likely moving out of it, Berchelt may even move out of it. He's a pretty big super featherweight. Diaz may be primed to
take over,
become at the very maybe not necessarily take over, but possibly take over, but at the very least be one of the big names of the division in the near future.
Yeah. Just regarding Angel Acosta, did you listen to our Friday show?
Yes, I did.
Where do you sit? Big rat tail or mullet?
Big rat tail. It reminded me a lot of Michael Carbajal. Funny enough,
Yeah.
Michael Carbajal, the legendary 108 pounder. So it's kind of appropriate that this guy has a similar hairstyle, similar style, just a similar kind of way of fighting about him. I heard what you were talking about with him. He does have one fight, but in the past where I think you can kind of properly weight him when he fought against Kosei Tanaka. Kosei Tanaka, who now may become a 3-weight champion in 11 fights if he fights for a flyweight title in his next fight. He gave Tanaka a very good fight and what was a huge step up for him. He had never gone the distance before. All of his wins are by knockout, Acosta's are. And, just the fact that he was able to compete at a pretty even level with Tanaka, and he only kind of tired out late. That fight was really good because Tanaka was a little bit quicker on the draw than him in the early rounds. Acosta kind of caught up to him in the middle rounds, but then in the later rounds, Acosta slightly tired out. I think because of the lack of experience of going those late rounds, and because Tanaka, I think I think he's kind of proven himself to be a special fighter. Back when he said that he wanted to win 5 world titles in 5 weight classes, and this was just after he had won his first world title at 105 pounds. I was like, man, like this guy, he gets hit too much. There's no way in hell he's going to do that. But he's kind of on his way to doing it. Like I said, if he wins his next fight, he'll be a 3-weight world champion in 11 fights, which would be extremely impressive. And so, if it turns out that winds up being Acosta's only loss to a guy that's going above and beyond and is very, his mentality is like, look, I'm trying to do what fans want. I'm trying to do that kind of mythical. Things that like the little kids dream about, like about winning world titles in all these weight classes, doing like Manny Pacquiao and De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather and etc. Then that would stand as not too much shame in that loss, especially considering he wasn't particularly well experienced before that. He's an extremely hard puncher. He stopped Alejo. He did it in more dominant fashion, I think, than even Dani Nietes. Who Nietes is another kind of fringe pound for pound guy. He's a 3-weight world champion as well. And he stands as one of those guys to me, 108 pounds is the deepest division in boxing. You go through the top 10 there, it's killer after killer, champion after champion, high level fighter after high level fighter. And they're pretty soon there's going to be a Ring Magazine champion there between Milan Melindo and Ryota Taguchi when they fight on New Year's Eve. So, I think Acosta stands as a very big threat to pretty much anybody else in that division. In spite of losing to Tanaka. Tanaka may be one of those guys that's the elite of the elite, the best of the best of the best, as they'd say in Men in Black. And, Acosta's a solid fighter, and he's exactly the type of fighter they call him Tito. They call him, I think that says it all. They call him Tito, just like Felix Trinidad. So, I think there's a lot there for him. And right. Puerto Rico is very, very, very much appreciative of fighters regardless of their weight class. All you gotta do is look at Ivan Calderon to see an example of that.
Yep. All right, Nelson, should we stick in the States and go to Vegas, or should we come over here to good old Blighty?
Well, I think probably let's stick with the States simply because it kind of there's a certain connection there with the Lomachenko Rigondeaux card and the divisions as a whole, featherweight and super featherweight.
Yeah. Okay. I did watch the HBO version today and yesterday, and we're talking about Lomachenko. So why the fuck did they mention on air what happened on another broadcast that they have nothing to do with? if you've stupidly decided to watch that card over Lomachenko versus Rigondeaux, these motherfuckers just spoiled the whole fight.
WCW versus WWF, man.
Stupid, man.
Yeah. Do you remember that? You know what I'm talking about with regard to that, right?
No.
On WWF's, Monday night shows, Monday Night Raw, back in the late 90s, it was pre-taped. So what wound up happening is WCW, on their live broadcast, because they were broadcast live, they would say, "Oh, on that other network, so-and-so defeated so-and-so, and blah-blah defeated..." They just run down the entire card and basically tell you who beat who.
Yo, that's cold, man.
Then,
that's cold.
Yeah. They were vicious, man. They were cutthroat. I think that's pretty much, when Bob Arum said all that shit about, who was it, the president I think it was the president of HBO Sports. I think that he put a green light out on himself with regard to that. And now this Cold War between networks, or at the very least between HBO and Top Rank, is only going to get colder, or only going to get warmer, I guess, so to speak. So I think pretty much that's the way that went, man. I think that's really just the way that went. But I mean, if you want to talk card for card, the HBO card was just a superior card, even beforehand as a card itself. And definitely in retrospect, in terms of how good the fights were.
All right, take it away then. I presume you want to start with Salido versus Roman.
Yes, Salido versus Roman. It looks like it might be over for Salido. He said very abruptly in the post-fight interview that, "Ya me voy," which means I'm going, I'm done, I'm retiring. I think it's kind of appropriate that he lost to a fighter that's very much like himself in Miguel Roman, a fighter with a dozen losses that got thrown in the deep end, early in his career, racked up a bunch of losses, fought the best of the best, and so he wound up losing to some of those, best of the best type guys, and learned on the job, retired Daniel Ponce de Leon, and now he may have retired another kind of great Mexican fighter in Orlando Salido. And I do when I say that he's a great fighter, I absolutely mean that. I think there's a lot of people that are like kind of hesitant to give him that quote unquote great label because he lost to Gamboa, he lost to Mike Garcia, he lost to Juan Marquez. But if you just look at those names, Marquez, Gamboa, I mean Gamboa kind of another guy that was a bit of a waste of talent. But, Marquez, Robert Guerrero, these guys are guys that have kind of gone above and beyond, not just the featherweight division, but like the sport of boxing as a whole, and proven themselves just to be classic fighters. So for Salido to lose them, but then continue plugging away as a featherweight, continue winning a championship, and then winning a championship at the next weight up, I think is it stands on its own as great accomplishments for him. He's the fighter that a lot of people considered Arturo Gatti to be, because he actually did win some of those big fights. He did beat Lomachenko. He did beat Orlando Cruz. He did beat Juanma Lopez. Even though it still stands as a no contest, his B sample came back negative for Robert Guerrero, and he beat the shit out of Robert Guerrero. He had 2 fights with Cristobal Cruz, lost the first one, won the second one. He's a great fighter, and he arguably beat Vargas. He definitely got robbed against Rocky Martinez. He's had a rough and tumble career, but it turned out to be a great one. His career reminds me of the story of Beowulf. Where it's that classic old soldier that's going back to fight one more battle, and then he winds up dying in the final battle. What the hell was that monster's name? Can't think of it off the top of my head, but. Mickey Roman turned out to be that one final guy that he couldn't take out. And Mickey Roman, incidentally, I think was kind of a bad style matchup for Salido to begin with, because Roman is a heavy-handed son of a bitch. He's a pressure fighter. He's a naturally bigger. He's like a younger version of Salido. Maybe not quite as tricky as Salido, not quite as skilled in terms of the kind of the slight subtle things that he does with the head moving on the inside, going outside, and with some of the strategic cheap shots that it'll do, the low blows at the opposite end of where the ref is standing. But Roman kind of overcame Salido, in the first round, putting a lot of pressure on him. Salido stunned him late in that first round. Roman came back, stunned Salido. They were fighting on even terms. There was I'm not sure if there's any round of this fight that could stand as round of the year, but there were several exchanges in this fight that could stand as like exchange of the year, combination of the year, shit like
I
that.
think the 8th when Salido was down for the second time, and then he came back and just rallied towards the end of the round, and I think that was a great moment.
Yeah, that was Salido's career in a nutshell. Gets dropped, gets back up, fights his opponent off, and then after the bell rang, he just looked at him like, "What? Like I ain't going anywhere." And of course, he got stopped the next round, but still, it's like he still had that grit about him. Like you're gonna have to put me unconscious to stop me.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to fight, or at the very least, Salido would have got up. Had the ref not stopped it right there, Salido would have got right back up and then kept going until Roman either knocked him out or killed him.
Yeah.
But hey, props to Roman for kind of taking out the untakeoutable, knocking out the unknockoutable. He's been knocked out way past in the past, but this is the first time since he's really kind of rose to prominence as a title challenger / champion in his career that he's been stopped. And I think incidentally, that's the part of the reason why Salido wound up saying afterwards, "I'm done, I'm retired," because he finally saw his own mortality in front of him because somebody actually stopped him. Somebody actually knocked him out.
In his style as well, almost like a mirror match, a younger version, as you say. But
Exactly.
Looking at Roman, obviously he's pretty up there in age. He is kind of like Salido with a lot of losses, especially earlier on. Do you see him like almost taking over from Salido and being that guy that's always in exciting fights, but always the B-side and never really getting the decision?
I think so. Can't necessarily say never getting the decision, because Salido did get the one over Lomachenko, even though that was way closer than it should have been. But it's going to be tough for Roman. But especially if Lomachenko leaves, if Berchelt leaves, I think Roman stands as a very dangerous opponent for anybody there, for anybody at 130. And he even called out guys at 126. Shit, if he can make 126, fine. He's hell on wheels for any of those guys, man. He's gonna be serious fucking trouble. The only guy to beat him recently was Takashi Miura, and I think that was just a particularly bad style matchup for him against Miura, because that fight was actually very close, and then Miura managed to start dropping him in the late rounds and then stop him. But Miura punches like few others. He's a bone breaking, brick wall shattering, freaking like Street Fighter 2 destroy the car level fighter, like a puncher. He's a pure puncher. And so Roman's style to kind of wade in against that type of power, it's just a bad style matchup for him. But against just about everybody else, I think he's hell on wheels for any of them. He might be, and so sometimes they say when you get these big signature wins, you become an even better fighter, and I think it might prove to be true for him. This is a huge win on him on HBO, and he said like he'll fight anybody. He called out Lomachenko and Berchelt by name. I'm not necessarily sure if he beats those two. I think Lomachenko will probably be just a tad too quick for him, and Berchelt as well, a tad too quick, too powerful for him. But I don't think that he would quit against either of them. I think that he would, just bite down and just keep plugging away. Not unlike Salido. I'm not sure if he has Salido's level of grit because we've seen Salido do it so many fucking times. But I think Roman is he's a really good fighter, and he's one of those guys that's going to be tough to beat. I think it kind of remains to be seen with him though, because with Salido we had something to go off of many times in the past, because he's been one of those guys since 2005 that was able to give elite fighters extremely tough fights, make them work for it every step of the way. Roman's a little bit newer in terms of that placement, but maybe he'll be able to prove that because he doesn't quite have as much wear and tear on him as Salido did. So let's see how it goes, man. But I'm very interested to see him fight any of those guys.
Leon, are you there?
Yes.
Did you catch any of the HBO card?
No, none of it.
Okay, so me and Neil are just going to finish it, and then we'll go back to Lomachenko just for you.
Yeah, sweet. And James DeGale.
Yeah, chunky DeGale. Neil, what should we talk about next? Farmer versus Ogawa?
Yeah, let's go there.
Just from the top, how did you have it? Did you score it?
I had Ogawa 7-5.
You're picking your Oriental brethrens, man. I had it for Farmer 8-4. It could be like Farmer 7-5, but Is it a case of just one of those fights which style you prefer, Naota, or?
It could be, theoretically, but honestly, for me, like I don't necessarily prefer any style. I prefer many styles, many like this. That's an Easter egg for you guys that are big hip hop fans from the early '90s. But honestly, to me, it was really just a case of Tevin Farmer was making a lot of the slick movements, the slick maneuvers, the defensive maneuvers that are really nice and flashy. But a lot of his offense was like less than ineffective. It was completely inconsequential, especially late in the fight. Farmer, I thought, controlled most of the early rounds into the mid rounds, but he started to fade in the mid rounds and then had pretty much nothing left in the late rounds. And I thought Ogawa pretty well controlled the late rounds just off of sheer conditioning. I think he was just a better conditioned fighter in there. And, he was constantly touching up Farmer. And funny enough is I could see a swing going to 8-4 to Farmer. I can see that. But to me, for people saying that it was a robbery, I think that's just a lot of Philly hype. No disrespect to Philadelphia. Cassidy's one of my favorite rappers still. One of the baddest men out there. Damn near undefeatable as an MC.
Yeah, but Hotel with R. Kelly was terrible.
Yeah, that was a bad look. But bar for bar, top 5 dead or alive. I'll go on record with that for Cass. But Tevin Farmer didn't have that explosiveness that Cassidy has with those punchlines. He really didn't. He's a guy that's very, very good defensively, leaves a lot to be desired offensively. He missed a full inch or two short with a lot of his shots.
Yeah, especially early on.
No jab to speak of. Yeah, and there were a lot of times where, funny enough, he actually threw over Ogawa's head, even though Ogawa was really more of kind of a straight up standing tall fighter. And whereas Ogawa, I thought, did really well kind of breaking through the guard with a lot of jabs and with some of his right hands as well. And Ogawa's body work was actually very good. And I think a lot of people are hesitant to score body work as well from Ogawa. So that might have kind of counted against him, along with the fact that, he's a fighter from Japan. Nobody had really seen or heard of him before. And along with the fact that Tevin Farmer, he's been promoting himself off of Gervonta Tank Davis's name. And I even said that on Twitter, like, maybe he should have ran a few more laps and got his conditioning a bit better together, that rather than, posting on Twitter and Instagram about how Davis don't want no smoke with me or whatever the fuck he was posting. So, I think he let himself down in the fight. He lost it basically in the championship rounds, which Ogawa pretty much won pretty clearly for me. I didn't actually see this fight live. I saw the 6th round on live, and but what I saw from the 6th round on, I'm like, Ogawa seems to be kind of controlling the pace of the fight. So when I saw people on Twitter really outraged about the decision, I was like, damn, Farmer must have swept all of the early rounds. I didn't think that he did. I actually edged the 2nd round for Ogawa. The 1st round was actually kind of a stalemate. It's like neither fighter really did very much of anything. I scored it to Farmer based off of, I think, one kind of nice clean shot he landed at the end of the round.
Yeah.
No. He landed one really
one
sharp
right
counter at the end of the round.
Big left hand
that just edged it to him for me. But beyond that, I think really just Farmer has he's one of these guys that he's a bit of a slickster, but he's not that slick. It's like that whole Lar is not that slick thing. He needs to be a little bit more offensive because his defense alone isn't going to win him fights against top level opponents. And I don't even necessarily consider Ogawa a top level opponent per se. He's kind of a B plus fighter. He's a guy that's well conditioned, strong. Can give you a gritty, tough fight, but he's not like a Miura. He's not like a Uchiyama. He's not one of those guys that's has some special talent in his bag where he can light you up, take you out, or style on you in that fashion. He's just a tough, gritty fighter. And Farmer, if he's really trying to be an elite guy like that, shouldn't be losing to somebody like Ogawa. And I thought that he got edged by him. So that's all there is to it.
It was my first proper look at Farmer. I've seen bits and bobs of him before, but I'm not really studying. But Saturday showed me there are a lot of strengths, but there are a lot of weaknesses as well. But the thing about Ogawa, for me, he was kind of a one-trick pony, just kept coming forward. Yeah, I agree, the body work was good. He had a really nice kind of bent arm, right hook to the body. 1-2 was pretty good as well with those long limbs he had. He could just shoot it from outside. But Farmer, I agree with you. He was at times a lot better going forward than he was going backwards. The commentary team picked it up in probably early to mid, where they were saying, I think Ward said it, that Farmer was making him miss, but the common expression, he wasn't really making him pay. He did start to do that probably mid to late afterwards, but early on he gave up a lot of opportunities where he could have maybe countered Ogawa and won rounds cleaner. I disagree with you about him. I agree that he kind of gassed, but I disagree that Ogawa took it over late. I think Ogawa was tired as well. I think you can't really favour a guy because he's the one going forward. I think he was tired as well. Both guys didn't really do too much towards the end of the fight, but
I don't really favor him just off of going forward. I favored him because he was still landing punches. He was landing more punches, and he was landing cleaner punches. I mean, Ogawa's work rate towards the end of the fight was practically nothing. Like, he really was only throwing one shot every so often, trying to kind of steal around with a flashy shot here or two. And a lot of those either got partially blocked or missed completely.
Or he got, shouldered into a clothesline and knocked onto the floor. That was quite interesting.
Yeah.
He didn't even get a warning for that.
That was pretty amusing.
It was funny as well, that round when he shut off right as the bell went and ran to the other side of the ring and tried to hit Farmer with a straight right. He had some spring in his step, but initially I think you were right as well, where, Farmer's, especially in that first and second round, his gauge of distance was poor. The jab was landing really short, and do you see when he kind of throws that lead left hand? It's a bit looping, but he lands so short, it's nowhere near the target, man. And he was very open to a counter, but yeah, I feel a bit bad for him. I think he definitely won the fight, and it's a shame that he's not picked up the strap, because I'd like to see him and Gervonta, even though I think Gervonta beats him, but I think his back foot, air quote, slickness might cause Gervonta a few problems, but it's definitely that would be a good fight because they've got history, they've got a lot of bad blood, so yeah. We'll see. I
mean, I think there's a few guys that could cause Davis a lot of problems. Even just kind of good orthodox fighters. I think Ogawa would even provide Davis a certain level of problems. Not entirely sure how Ogawa's chin is because Palmer's not really a heavy puncher.
I think Gervonta would ice Ogawa. I think he's just too straight up, man.
Probably. I was actually getting to that. Because he is a little bit too straight up. But I mean, it's really all dependent on how good his chin is. I'm not too sure because he hasn't really fought a big puncher like that. But at the same time, I mean, I thought Francisco Fonseca was giving Davis the business before Davis pounded his nuts into submission and got kind of a pretty bad stoppage against him. So, go figure. I think Davis really has a lot to work on. And honestly, I don't think Davis should be fighting at 130 anymore. I think he drains himself to make that weight.
Yeah. No, I agree. But I think he's kind of a small lightweight as well. He's one of those guys that's just in between weight classes.
He's like Miguel Cotto. Yeah, he's like kind of I don't know. There's something about him. It's like he just can't lose the weight properly, but he's not really like a muscle bound guy that you could see he just move up to lightweight.
Yeah. All right. Last fight of that particular card that was shown. Well, they did have the Mexican broadcast where they had the Shafikov fight. I didn't actually see that one, but was that at the same venue?
It was on
or was
HBO
that filmed somewhere else?
Yeah. Yes, it was right before the Vargas versus Smith. Or wait, which fight was first? It was right before Ogawa versus Farm. Wait, no, it was right before Vargas versus Smith. Yeah, because that was the lead-in.
Okay.
But it was on HBO Latino. Rene Alvarado pulls off a big upset. I think it was 5 or 6 to 1, something like that, against Denis Shafikov. I mean, for obvious reason, Rene Alvarado has a bunch of losses. I think he has 9. And Denis Shafikov, the only losses that he has are to top level lightweights. He barely lost to Robert Easter. Gave Richard Comey a pretty good beating. Maybe not a beating, but he won that fight clearly. Otherwise, the only other guy that he lost to recently had been Francis Barthélemy, who himself, he's still a top level 140 pounder. So, I think a lot of people kind of expected Shafikov to go down and just become a big name automatic. Wound up getting dropped by Alvarado. I think it was in the 4th. Rene Alvarado also cut him. Alvarado's just a spoiler, man. He's very much akin to Salido, to Castellanos, to Roman now, incidentally. He's, funny enough, I even put it on Twitter too. Him, Castellanos, and Mickey Roman have over 30 losses between the three of them. but they're three of the top super featherweights. Like, there are three top 10 super featherweights right now. And, I mean, that just goes to show that records don't mean everything, losses don't mean everything. Because, some of these guys, they learn hard on the job. And, they at any given moment, they could upset your A side. And that's exactly what happened here. He wound up only getting a split decision, but I thought he definitely deserved it. I thought, he was just clearly ahead as it went into the late rounds. And Shafikov, he landed some really good left hands, especially. Alvarado can sometimes stand a little bit too straight up, but I mean, this now stands as Alvarado's really signature win. I mean, the last one they had was as good as this when he, I think it was when he knocked out Castellanos, funny enough, a few years back, which was like an eliminator to fight for the featherweight belt, WBC. But just a great win for Alvarado. Tough loss for Shafikov because he's kind of a high risk, low reward guy, and I think it's going to be really hard for him to get another like top level fight, especially at super featherweight. He might have to actually go back up in order for guys to be willing to take a risk against him. But maybe they see a little bit of give in him, considering the fact that Alvarado was actually able to drop him, which hadn't happened before.
And the last fight, so basically the first fight of the HBO broadcast, Francisco Vargas versus Stephen Smith. Naota, I thought I saw some improvements in Vargas, especially early on. He was using his jab a bit more. The 1-2 was working well, and then once he landed those punches, he would get on the inside and be the classic Vargas and just throw those hooks from odd angles and just work on the inside. And Stephen Smith, he couldn't really do anything. I know he got really a few strict warnings off the ref for holding. I don't really think the holding was too bad. It wasn't excessive or nothing, but and then obviously the ear injury to Smith. I think they had a few head clashes. The ear did swell up a bit. It looked like a lot of blood had gathered in on the top of the ear, and then eventually, I think after another head clash, it just split, and it was.
Well, and funny enough, Vargas was actually landing right on his ear all night with the right hand.
Yeah, and it wasn't nice to see actually, man. But Smith, I think he's gonna have to get some type of surgery and shit. But he'll probably never box again, to be honest, because once you got damage there, and looking at his career as a whole now, it almost seems like Hearn just said sink or swim now, because with Eddie's strategy going for the future, it just seems like he's focused on his few big names, and the rest is just bringing out the Olympians and that new crop. It seems like these guys that have become a bit stagnant. He's just giving them a few opportunities and probably just going to let them go. That's what it seems so.
They're opponents, Cam. They're just opponents now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Smith had already
kind of
been at that. Smith had already kind of been in that motion to begin with.
Yeah.
Even leading into this fight, but I mean, I thought Vargas at the very least proved that he wasn't a shot fighter. Coming off of the Burchett loss, sharp, great jab still. That jab is really, really nice. He only lost to Burchett, I think, just because Burchett just had a heavier handed jab. But that the jab alone from Vargas is something that's really difficult to get around. And then the kind of the short chopping right hands on the inside. He's not a great inside fighter, but he's a very competent, good inside fighter. Vargas is. And really, he was just too skilled, too sharp, kind of too much of everything for Smith. To really be able to beat Vargas, I think it's kind of shown in the past. You have to be very physically strong, first of all, and you also have to have something special about you. Like Mira's special power, Salido's special grit, Burchett's special kind of everything, I guess, all around this. To beat a guy like Vargas. I mean, Vargas, he does still have a little bit of wear and tear on him. He might still have a little bit of give to him, based off of the recent wars. But I think he still proved himself to be a top level guy in there against Smith. And like they had him posing for pictures with Miguel Roman. I think I could very easily see that fight taking place, and that's an interesting fight. I think that's a very interesting fight between those two. The winner of that would probably be the mandatory for Burchett. Unfortunately for both of them, I don't think either of them beat the guy. But if it wasn't for Burchett, I think either of them would be a pretty worthy WBC champion at 130.
Look, you're talking about Burchett being so big. By the time if they fight and become mandatory, Burchett might have vacated and stepped up. So.
Yeah, it's very possible.
I think Roman's a tough fight for Vargas. He's going to go back into
that.
And
I think Burchett probably will too, because I think that's really where his big payday is at too. At 135.
Yeah. Leon, I think Jim Lampley's researcher basically fucked him at the ass.
Stephen Smith is a very good fighter. Has a record of 32-3. But the 3 losses were against fighters whose pedigrees suggest to you that he probably would be in an uphill fight to ever try to win a title. Knocked out by a fighter named Bobby Vanzi in England. Lost to Richard Hatton back in 2002 in Manchester. I guess that had to be the actual Ricky Hatton himself. And Jason Sosa of the United States also was one of the winners over Stephen Smith.
Leon, basically, he was reading the box record of a different Stephen Smith.
Yeah, what was going on there?
It's crazy, man.
What a joker.
That's pretty bad, man. Yeah, like,
That's
as much
terrible.
as much as I love Lampley, man, like, you gotta get your shit correct, man. Come on, man.
His drinking's out of control these days.
Yeah, man, I think he needs
He's
that.
a bona fide alcoholic.
Yeah, and he even sounded confused as he was reading it.
Yeah, he was like, what the fuck?
Do you know what? Do you know the worst thing? Because I wasn't here. The Cotto crying thing.
Yeah.
Everyone's going about. That didn't bother me so much. It's the fact that he had like weird women's like lesbian glasses on. I found even more disturbing. He looked so weird. He looked like a German middle-aged lesbian on that screen. It was shocking.
Naota, are we done on this HBO card?
Yeah, we ran through the whole thing, man. Good card, really good card. It's kind of unfortunate that it went against Lomachenko Rigondeaux, but funny enough, I mean, it was really the better card of the two. In terms of action, to action versus the time you spent watching it.
Yeah, as a card overall, it was much better than the one in New York, but the main event in New York was so enthralling beforehand. So Leon
and Salido Roman is definitely a fight that I'll watch a few times more. That's a fight you can go back anytime you feel like it and check it out. That was a great brawl between those two.
I did really enjoy. I didn't watch any of the card, but I did enjoy Lou DiBella's meltdown
about Tevin Farmer
on Twitter. When everyone else was, he'll always defend judges when it goes his way, right? He's the worst. Yeah. And he had a complete and utter fucking meltdown. I'm sorry, Kevin.
Farmer.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Farmer. If he did get robbed, that's really bad. But I can't help but enjoy those moments. He's a self-righteous cunt, that man. Fuck him.
All right, Leon, over to you regarding Lomachenko Rigo.
Well, I told you quit, didn't I? A couple of weeks back, I said he might quit.
I think you just said everything and just covered all bases.
No, I'm pretty sure I said he quit. He quit bad though, didn't he?
That was a bad quit.
He got well and truly worked. That's the thing that I took away from it is that Lomachenko completely worked him out, defensively. Because he kept on, pulling and dropping to the left, and Lomachenko took a couple of rounds to work it out, and then he was just there to be hit. And Rigondeaux didn't change anything he did.
I've seen it twice.
Nothing.
I've seen it
Nothing.
once with the Box Nation
one
commentary.
thing to change it, did he?
I've seen it once with the Box Nation commentary and once with the ESPN. And Tim Bradley picked up on it quite early, maybe in the second or third round, that Rigo didn't look right. It's those first few rounds, he just knew that, look, I can't win this shit. And especially when I think his soul totally got taken away when that point got deducted, and he thinks, well, look how behind I am now. But Leon, you can't quit in a fight of that magnitude.
You can't. Look, the thing is, he did everything he usually does, and then when he was challenged by someone who might have worked him out, he didn't have another thing to turn to, did he?
No.
Another game plan. For all the things I've criticised Floyd, if it wasn't working, he'd find a way. He'd find a way to nullify that thing that was affecting him. And that's what the great defensive fighters do, and Rigondeaux didn't.
But Leon,
I don't give a shit about the size.
How many times have we said it before that a guy can be losing, but as long as he's trying, as long as he's putting the effort in, even if he gets stopped, you're going to get more credit out of it. But he just decided at one point that I'm not going to be able to win this shit. He stopped trying. He was barely throwing. Like you said, he kept dipping to the left-hand side. he didn't have anything, no game plan, and he just didn't have no heart to think, you know what, I'm just fucking gonna just get on this guy. I'm gonna throw loads of punches. I'm gonna see how he reacts to my left hand. He didn't do none of that shit.
Did nothing. Lomachenko just snatched just worked him out, and then he didn't have anything. Suddenly someone worked him out. Because the problem is, let's be brutally honest, he hasn't fought anyone good in so long that it's going to be difficult for him to win that fight in the first place, because he hasn't challenged himself in years.
Yeah.
In years and years and years. He hasn't challenged himself.
Since Donaire, really, isn't it?
Really? Let's be honest.
And Leon, have I not been saying that for the past 5 years? Or 4.5 years, or however long the fuck it's been?
We all knew, and you definitely have been, but everyone could see this coming, because the longer he was out of the ring, I mean, he's a 58-year-old smoker. I mean, he did pretty well considering. All seriousness, everyone's heard rumours about how he likes to party and stuff. So, are you shocked that he quit? No. I just enjoyed, people really went hard picking Rigondeaux just in case he won, didn't they? And he didn't have a chance of winning that fight.
Not just in case he won, but there's a lot of people that they're of the ilk where they feel like, oh, anything that HBO promotes is automatically bad. It's just a hype, and it's just a hype job. We've seen this before with Donaire, and Roman Gonzalez in his 4th weight class got knocked out. Therefore, he was a hype job. And Rigondeaux is gonna take out Lomachenko and prove that. Once and for all, that he's the best fighter ever in boxing, better than Floyd Mayweather, and so on and so forth.
Look, another thing that needs to be put completely to bed and just completely needs to be shat on is the idea that his story was so bad because he came from Cuba, and everything he's gone through already means that he's done well to achieve what he's achieved. I'm sorry, have third world countries not had champions before who have gone through just as
eaten out of the garbage,
just as much shit as he has? Boxing is littered with stories of people coming from fucking hellholes, and they don't. At least in Cuba, they have
socialized healthcare, man. Shit.
Health service, and one of the most literate countries in the world, right? One of the best read countries on the planet.
Yeah.
And yes, no one's denying the fact that he went through absolute hell, supposedly, growing up there. But numerous other fighters have come from exactly the same backgrounds, and they haven't done that. So that doesn't justify anything that he did on that night.
Yeah.
This shit happens all the time in boxing.
Something I actually didn't mention earlier is Rigo's style was so stuck in the amateurs, and he never really developed, redeveloped it and reinvigorated it as a professional. He was kind of able to get away with a lot of that stuff against the level of opposition that he was fighting. And so when it came time to fight a guy that had started to change his style from his amateur style into a more professional style like Lomachenko had, it was a whole new game. It was like a basketball player playing football all of a sudden. Like, whoa, like what the fuck is this? Why am I getting hit?
Yeah. Leon,
exactly. His career. Let's be honest. We look back over that career. It's been wasted.
Yeah.
No one's doubting the guy's talent, but a bridge too far.
And you mentioned his career. I asked the same question to Naoto. The only thing you foresee retirement, or can he pull it back?
Well, look, he can go and make fights at his proper weight division and beat. He's going to give hell to lots of people low down.
But who wants to fight him now, though? He's high risk, low reward.
Is he high risk now? I mean, I guess he is. But you've got to have seen some. If we're picking up on things he was doing, fighters have got to see weaknesses there and opportunities to beat him. Yeah, but I don't think it really means as much as it the victory wouldn't mean as much as it did before the loss, obviously. But he asked his fight.
It wouldn't necessarily, but it still would to a certain degree. Because say one of these guys catches him, stops Rigo, and stops him. Like you could say look, I'm a 122er or I'm a 126er, and I just outdid Lomachenko, the pound for pound god, and what have you. That's something that fighter could put under his belt and would be a serious accomplishment.
Yeah, and especially you got to question his heart. You'd think, right, if I can stay with this guy and make him work, because anyone think his hand was actually hurt?
No.
Anyone believe that shit? It's
Yeah,
bullshit.
he did. I didn't really see a great clean shot that he landed for him to hurt his hand.
Yo, if Eddie Hearn promoted Rigo, he would have posted a X-ray on Sunday morning.
And I think it was good that Lomachenko said, look, you know, I thought it was an unfair fight and all this stuff, and he might be right, but I think the outcome would have been the same at 126, you know.
Yeah.
I just think that, you know, he's...
And
look, Daenerys is a...
They still tried to artificially drain Lomachenko with that 138-pound catchweight bullshit on the day.
Yeah, look, he had the opportunity to have that fight.
For pussies, period, point blank. So, I mean, I think that kind of that spoke to Rigo's mentality even going into the fight, that they did that.
Look, people just don't, you know, you don't see, like, all the people who are these kind of great defensive fighters the last couple of years. Floyd, two of them I dislike highly in Floyd and Ward, but they would never have quit like that. Never. Would they?
No. Yeah,
if
when
they
Ward
were getting beaten,
adversity got put on his ass by Kovalev, he came right back. And
exactly, whatever I think about the result or whatever. We're talking pure mentality. Pure mentality here.
He fought his way back into that fight.
He does not have the mentality of an all-time great. He does not. He can never be seen as one of these people, Rigondeaux. I'm sorry. It's maybe talent-wise, yeah, but like career-wise, no chance. I mean, it's a shame, you know. Because, I mean, yeah, I've enjoyed the loss just because it's, you know, you have to pick a side and go with it in these fights.
Well, it's amusing.
But deep down, I know the guys.
It's amusing seeing all the Rigon douchebags, as I've called them. You know, they get their entire, you know, false reality shattered, like they just took the fucking pill from the Matrix.
But at the same time, he had the opportunity, if he could have won that fight, to really escalate himself very, you know, up in people's estimations, and he just didn't seem to be willing to do everything it takes. I mean, look, whatever you say about Stephen Smith's fucking ear was half hanging off, and he probably didn't want to stop that fight.
He would have continued even though he's fucking more or less
of course he would. And look, this is, you know, so we're saying that. We're saying a Smith brother has more heart than Rigondeaux.
Oh, shit. All right. Damn. Leon, regarding Lomachenko moving forwards, what do you foresee?
I just want him to fight the guys that Naoto wants him to fight, so we can put all that shit to bed. So, like, whoever Naoto wants him to fight, I want him to fight that guy,
and then I can
just so we can just put that shit to bed.
Then I can,
I'll put out the Naoto list of like Lomachenko.
Yeah, exactly. Whoever Naoto wants
opponents.
I'm good with whatever, you know. Everyone's saying go up and fight Garcia and stuff, but I mean, it's
earlier
difficult.
I mentioned.
He can only fight the guys who want to fight him, and hopefully people want to fight him.
I mean, earlier I mentioned Burchell because they blatantly avoided that before. You know, I mentioned Linares because that's just an interesting matchup all the way around. I think, you know, speed versus speed, talent versus talent. Although Linares, like I said, you know, he has some liabilities about him. He has some weaknesses about him that, you know, Lomachenko would probably exploit. I think Ray Beltran would be an acceptable fight simply because, you know, it'd be at a new weight class and he's still a solid fighter at that weight class. Even though I would probably favor Lomachenko to kind of outspeed him, to outpace him. But, you know, I'm not sure what you think of those guys.
Fight that Beltran, like Beltran, go up and fight him as his first fight at that new weight together. Yeah. I'm fine with that.
And I think that would probably be for the vacant belt too, because Beltran's rated number 1.
So just fight anyone. I don't care. Just, you know, I'm happy to see him fight, and I'm sure he's willing to fight anyone. But I just think they've obviously got a very clear plan of how they want him to progress that none of us really quite understand yet. Because it is a little bit erratic, that career, isn't it?
I understand.
It's jumped around a bit.
I understand it. They're gonna do kind of like they did with Pacquiao. They're gonna be very choosy about who he fights stylistically, and like how they're looking and how they're coming off, and, you know, if they can catch guys on short notice or off of an injury or off of a layoff.
Until it's that time, like now, it's your time to make your money. Like now, you strike now, and then he'll maybe go on a Pacquiao run and fight a lot of guys.
Lomachenko's so easily promotable, you know, for a couple of obvious reasons, and also for the fact that, you know, he's a fighter that he does certain things in there that I think gets casuals involved a lot. simply because there's a little bit of flash to his style against the guys that are clearly overmatched, and there's some good power and kind of explosiveness to his style against both overmatched guys and even guys that are pretty appropriately matched with him. And the guys that I think that have that don't give a fuck attitude, even like Miguel Mariaga, those guys force Lomachenko to actually show his technical skill a little bit more so. And show really just how far he's actually progressing as a pro in terms of his actual skill, aside from all the flashy stuff that won't necessarily work against every single opponent.
And add to him self-promoting, how good has his English become?
That's what I was just saying. He's put the work in, hasn't he?
Exactly, where a lot of these guys can't be bothered to learn English, so it just closes off a big market for him. But I thought his post-fight interview was excellent.
Well, him and Rigondeaux are the polar opposites in that sense. I think you've got a man who's driven, who's got a very clear set of goals for himself, on many levels, including like, if I go to America, I'm going to learn English. And then he can see, and he's probably seen it hold him back and him want to be able to say things at the end of fights. Because I think he's he's got that arrogance that you need to have as a top fighter, and he's just realised to express himself, he's going to have to fucking learn the language.
Yeah, no, well said.
And so, he's a driven guy, isn't he?
Yep. All right, Leon, anything else regarding Lomachenko, Rigondeaux, or any of that card that you saw?
No, I only saw that fight.
You casual these days, bro. What's going on?
I'm trying to get this fucking bathroom finished before the in-laws turn up.
Have you not finished it yet?
I'm doing it myself.
I swear you've been doing that bathroom for like 4 months.
3.5 months, but there's been a lot of lulls in the middle.
Where have you been having a bath and a shower?
I've got a shower upstairs.
Oh, okay, I'll let you off. Did you manage to catch the London card?
I managed to. I watched James DeGale and Yard.
James DeFale.
Yeah.
All
failed
right.
hard, didn't he?
Give us your thoughts on that then, Leon. You kick it off.
He got beat up by a middleweight. Like, he got punched around that ring, didn't he? For like 3 or 4 rounds. Like, he really slipped away in the middle. He really turned off, and like, he looks like his body's failing him.
Yeah.
And he's with a trainer who's basically known for his fitness, so it's a huge worry.
I don't know, like, the old me used to be like, first thing I'd say is he needs to change his trainer and stuff, but a trainer can only, he can't monitor the guy 24/7. If dude's going out...
No.
If dude's going out in the evening and getting drunk or whatever, or, not eating well, then how much can Jim McDonnell really do? The only thing I really question is, I have no confidence in that arm and that shoulder, because anything on the right side that DeGale did, which was minor anyway, because a lot of it was just like doubling, tripling the left hand. Anything he did do with the right hand was very weak. The jab was poor.
Snap to it, was
Yeah, the right hook was poor. He was basically a one-handed man in there.
And Truax just thought he thought he could walk through him pretty much, didn't he?
And he did. Like that 5th round, Truax was excellent. The way he was throwing those hooks and uppercuts and catching DeGale on the ropes. And we've all said it for years. He always retreats to the ropes, even though he shouldn't. And I don't understand how him and Selby were the top of the bills. Both guys are heavily reliant on movement, but yet they got this tiny ass fucking ring. That was a stupid move by whoever decided that.
Yeah, exactly. He couldn't get away, because as soon as he stepped, a step and a half back, and he was on the ropes, wasn't he?
Yep.
And Truex's movement was really good, like moving in. I thought, like he
cut off the ring
was
well.
Good. Yeah, he did really, really well. Like that could be his moment. Like he could have beaten a lot of guys on that night.
And what was really impressive for me, like my brother was at my house and he doesn't really watch boxing, and like I said to him, "Oh, look at this American dude, man. Unfortunately, he's going to get robbed on the cards. Watch what happens." And then, to my like delight and surprise, he won it, man, and it was beautiful. Like you saw how much appreciation and emotion he had, because that's what these guys train for. Even though we say it time and time again, Leon, like champions these days are bullshit. It's easy to kind of grab yourself a belt, but it meant everything to him and his team, and
I think
it was incredible.
All in boxing, boxing is made up of these stories, isn't it? From the big fights, it looks like, and it's kind of what it's part of the reason we love the sport is because of that underdog thing. And he's a good, honest guy. Like you don't. He'll fight anyone, won't he? He'll fight He's one of those guys who has to fight anyone.
And the problem is, he'll probably get iced in his next fight. But props to him for this fight because no one can take this fight and take this title win away from him. That's in concrete now. It's in history. So props to him. But I don't really see him doing much at super middleweight, Leon. That's the problem.
20 years from now, like it'll be like people calling him champ. Like what's going on, champ? You know what I mean? Whatever he happens to be in life.
People are saying that Groves and DeGale are 1 and 2, right, in this division. Like, has there been two guys at the top of the division who have worse gas tanks?
Yeah.
Like, would, if you were Chris, like, would you pick Chris, would you pick DeGale to beat Eubank Jr. on that showing?
No, not. If he's retreating against the ropes, letting Chris tee off on him. What the fuck?
Honestly,
even
before that showing, I would have picked Eubank over.
Well, yeah, but we saw it coming. We saw it coming in that Medina fight, and the Butte fight. James DeGale was going on over there like he went and schooled him, and he schooled Molina. He didn't school anyone.
I mean, not only
he
that,
tried
but
to
like
the rail fight.
Not only that, but Medina and Jack really punished DeGale. Like they put mileage on him.
Like,
and I think it kind of showed here against Truax.
No, that's a good point. Like, if you look at DeGale's, resume for the last 4 or 5 fights, like, every fight's been a tough fight. He's had no easy fight.
He could have lost all 3 of those fights.
Yeah, easily.
Even that Butte fight.
Yeah, that Durrell fight was close. The Butte fight was close. A lot of people thought Medina beat him. The Jack fight obviously was a draw. People said either way, and
it's a mindset thing again.
I don't think Truax should have been a hard fight, but he made it a hard fight, especially with him.
They're dragging someone up. They're dragging him up.
Truax got starched in a round by Anthony Durrell and got dominated and knocked out by Daniel Jacobs. And the biggest one of all, he got beat. He got clearly beat by whatever was left of Jermaine Taylor in 2012, where he started fucking shooting up a children's parade a couple months later. That guy's not well, and he still beat Truax.
But if I was, it's funny you say that. If I was Danny Jacobs, I'll be going to Eddie Hearn. Get me up a weight. Wouldn't you? If he's with Matchroom and you've got DeGale and
honestly, I bet you his phone is blowing up. I bet you Oscar De La Hoya was on the phone saying like, "Hi, you can fight Canelo on Cinco de Mayo weekend." Why not? And Golovkin, he's going to be gunned for by all these guys. And to me, Truax should just set up a bidding war. Whoever gives him the most money, take it. Regardless of who it's against.
Set up his retirement fund.
Yes, sir.
Let's be honest. That Mexican, who the other 168, the big Mexican,
Benavidez or Ramirez.
Ramirez. He looks good as a champion.
He does he's consistent. Now. He's consistent. I mean, he's a little bit on cruise control sometimes, but he's consistent.
Yo, Liam, what would David Benavidez done to James DeGale on Saturday? He would have fully iced him, I think. Yeah,
but that last performance was dodgy. But you allow one bad performance. But he wouldn't have worried about coming forward.
Gavrill's honestly kind of an underrated fighter, though. He's just very technically good.
But I just didn't feel like DeGale had enough to keep a middleweight off him.
Yeah, I don't trust that shoulder now. I think he's got issues, man.
Remember when we used to say that he would beat Froch?
It's amazing what a few years can actually do.
Well, I've always been a big critic of DeGale, even going back to when Ari was on here. Shout out to Ari. I've seen him in the chat.
He's in hell.
And like I kept calling him James the Failed. I mean, partially to troll him, but I don't know. I always just thought he didn't look right to me. I always thought that like he was gonna kind of flounder at the top level.
I always liked his skills, but you could never trust his body.
Well, to me, he's really not a skillful fighter. He's a talented fighter. He's working off of natural talent, kind of speed and explosiveness. To me, skill is something that you develop over time. Talent is something that you're born with.
Yeah.
He's a very talented fighter, but he never developed the skill. And so now that some of some of that explosiveness, that quick twitch muscle is starting to leave him, and then now he's starting to get that mileage put on him. I think his lack of skills are being more exposed with each passing fight, and it's probably only going to get worse from here unless he really changes a lot of things up. Because, I mean, there was a lot of moments in there where he was slapping with punches. There was no jab to speak of, really no setup. And, I mean, Truax just like – it's almost like watching Roy Jones after Tarver and Johnson knocked him out, you know, compared to before.
James DeGale. What happened? George Groves was icing him. They always have like a back and forth after one of them has a bad display, and obviously Groves had to stick it into DeGale.
I caught that Groves Chudnoff. They repeated it on, I don't know where I saw it on somewhere, but he looked bad in that fight, you know, Cam.
Yeah, he didn't look great, but he pulled it off though.
He pulled it off, but he was gassing hard in that fight.
He doesn't like pressure, man. Like, he likes having that mid to long range, but if anyone's on his chest, he just cowers down and just throws like wild hooks.
He was struggling in that fight. Like I thought that division was weak for a while, but I mean, I think you've said that division was weak since you started jumping on the show. Yeah, it's a wasteland. After I've got to say it, after I hate saying this, it's gonna hurt, but after Ward and Frotch left, it was done. Oh.
At least you got it out of there. At least you said it.
Yeah,
you said it now.
I feel better now.
I'll put it out. I'll put it in the New York.
I mean, I think between Eubank, Benavidez, and Ramirez, especially Groves as well. I think there's some really good fights to be had there, though. That can.
There's some fun there.
And
Definitely some fun there.
too. Uzkadagi as well. If he can ever get some sort of a title shot, I don't know. Maybe he'll get a rematch against Uncle DeGale.
I reckon Jacobs and Triple G will be there very soon. Whatever happens in Canelo rematch.
It'll be fighter versus trainer part 2.
Exactly.
Juan Ma can be the special guest referee.
All right, Leon, going down the. Sorry, Neota, have you got anything to add about the Gale Truax fight?
Just a great win for fucking Truax, man. This is like Leon kind of alluded to before. This is like a chicken soup for the soul story for Caleb Truax. You know, great underdog win for him, and like I said before, set up a bidding war, man, because everybody's gonna be gunning for him. Billy Joe Saunders, Golovkin, and Canelo, if they want to move up, gonna be gunning for him. The other champions at that weight are gonna be gunning for him. Just take the highest offer. I guess he probably,
Chavez payday.
He probably has some. Oh shit! Yeah, there you go. That's actually a winnable fight for him too.
Yeah, and money.
So exactly, money, and then he could parlay that into something even bigger. Especially if he would have beat Chavez and then fight either Ramirez and Benavidez, get the Mexican fan base involved. Considering the fact that he probably is kind of tied in with Heyman now off of this win, I'd imagine a unification with Benavidez would be likely, or potentially Andre Durrell. But it remains to be seen. To me, if he has his way, he should just try to get the maximum money for whatever it's worth.
All right, going down the undercard. Did you catch any of the undercard, Leon? I know you said you saw Anthony Yard, but did you see anything else?
No, that's it.
I can kind of quickly skip over Selby. It was classic Selby, back foot, movement combinations, feather fisted. That's about it. Neota, do you want to add anything?
Wait, say that again?
Do you want to add anything about Selby?
Oh, Selby. I thought Ramirez was kind of in the fight at times. I mean, I thought Selby, clearly won the fight, dominated it for the most part. But there were certain moments where Ramirez kind of either kind of stunned Selby or caught Selby with something that he made you wonder. But his condition looked terrible, man. I think because didn't they get this guy on short notice? Because I know he missed the weight for one.
I think he missed it by a big amount. It was kind of crazy, man.
A couple of pounds, I think. I think it was like 128, right? Something like that.
I think it was a bit more than that, but I might be wrong.
But I'm pretty sure they got this guy on short notice or something. But just Selby, like you and Kimo talked about the other day, man. Selby, he's just there. He's just kind of existing, but not really lighting the world on fire and not really doing very much to give people confidence that he'd actually beat other top featherweights. To me, he's the weak link there. And, I mean, I don't know what he's going to do. Fight somebody, please. Fight somebody. Yeah. Somebody worth a damn.
Yeah, hopefully the Warrington fight, even though it's...
His opponents always have weird shit going on with them. They get injured and they...
Hepatitis B.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, he's fighting people. He's like pulling people out of the clinic and shit. Like, like, oh, this person.
Josh Warrington's gonna come down with gonorrhea.
Yeah, seriously, get the Mike Tyson effect.
Yeah. So we can skip Selby. Leon Anthony Yard, go.
It's a good win. People seem to be giving him a lot of credit. This guy's a 168 fighter, isn't he? Really?
Yeah, he is. But I kind of shit on him.
Has he fought at one? That his first time up there?
No, I think he fought Stieglitz at 175.
Oh, okay.
He got a draw against Stieglitz, but I kind of shit on him last week. But I thought his performance at times was good. He was coming forward. He was putting Yard under pressure. He was touching Yard up as well. He was landing quite a bit on Yard early on.
Yeah, I just think it makes you wonder what a big guy would do.
Yeah.
But it's a good win. But I think it's a bit. He's never been stopped was the thing, and I find it difficult to get excited about it, Cam, about that win.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but it was definitely a bit of a step up for Yard. I'm just concerned, again, I say it after every Yard, the way Warren talks. Oh, yeah, he's not much amateur. Yeah, then we're going to take it slow. He's got no faith in that chin, man, I think. And I've heard stories, man, so I think he's not going to fight anyone dangerous until he gets into like a final eliminator position or maybe a vacant title, because if you look at everyone at light heavy on the world scene, the champions, and then anyone in kind of first, second, third, or possible final eliminator positions, they're all heavy-handed, man. So you know what Warren's going to do? Somehow he's going to wait for Kovalev to get, stripped or move up or some shit, and then his belt, the WBO, will be a nice vacant belt for Anthony Yard, because there's no way he's going to send Yard into the lines then against Kovalev. 100%. Like he's putting too much time and effort into Yard for him to just like feed him to the line like that.
He would get smashed to bits against Kovalev. We saw what Kovalev does to fringe level guys last time.
Yeah.
Like whatever we say about Kovalev, his two losses are to one of the best guys, and everyone else he's dealt with. And he's not a Chilemba who's kind of well schooled, difficult to beat, and that's been one of his toughest fights. Like, Yard isn't these things.
Yeah, we should
see. At the moment.
We'll see how he kind of, how he carves his path, how Mr. Warren carves his path. But, Neota, did you manage to catch this?
Yeah, I did. And I kind of echo what you guys say about Yard. Like, Yard, he's not a bully necessarily in terms of size or in terms of style, but, like, I think in terms of mentality, where it's like, as long as he can hurt his opponent, it's all good. But, I mean, if he fights somebody that could really, like, kind of hurt him back, I think it might be a really rough road downhill for him, and a very fast one actually. But Sikocha was able to test him in terms of skills at least. I really think they need to get this guy rounds if they really can. He's a big puncher, so it's going to be hard for them to get him good rounds against somebody that's not going to really like chin check him and see really what he's got. So I mean, it may be a kind of a damned if you do or damned if you don't situation with him. But I don't know. It kind of remains to be seen. I know there's been stories about his chin, like in sparring and stuff like that. And he's just so stiff, man. He reminds me of, like, and this is like not me trying to say that like he's gonna be just like him, but kind of reminds me of Seth Mitchell, where like Seth Mitchell was a huge puncher, but he was just so fucking stiff that every punch that got landed on him, he took it full power. 100% power. It's like he walked into it completely. Like there's like no kind of sway to him. There's no give to him. There's no like rolling with the punch from him. He's gonna get hit, and he's gonna get hit hard. And considering some of the light heavyweights that are out there, not even necessarily at the top level, but below that, Joe Smith, Sullivan Barrera, guys like that. I mean, it could be really bad for him. It could be really bad for him if one of those guys catches him.
Yep. Totally agree to that. Okay, rest of the undercard, really. Leon, did you see dangerous Daniel Dubois Triple D versus Double D Dorian Darch?
No,
I
did not see it.
It was all the D's in effect, I think.
How did he look? Did he knock him out in a round?
Yeah, he took 2 rounds. He did. I think he did drop him in the first though. But yeah, man, Dubois still. I think he's 20. Still a lot to learn, but there's a lot of potential. My only issue, Leon, was at one point like you just kept pulling back the right hand, shoot it again, pull it back again, shoot it again. Why not just right hand, left hook, right hand, left hook? Why you keep that? Obviously, that's going to be your power punches. It obviously seems so, but I think by pulling it back continuously against someone better when you step up, you're just going to give them a counter opportunity because it's going to wait for you to shoot that right hand, block it or slip it, and come back with a counter. So it just maybe needs to work on that.
Yeah, but it's still so early. He's a kid, isn't he? It's like it's so difficult to judge, and they're putting so much pressure on him already. It's just
Box Nation are horrible.
All these things are going to be there for a while, aren't they? These little things that he needs to add.
Yeah, they'll be there for a good couple of years. But Box Nation are doing it to themselves, really, though, because when Yard was fighting, they were saying, oh, Shedlocker went the distance with Callum Smith, and when Dubois was fighting Darch, he was like, well, this Darch is a former opponent of Anthony Joshua, and blah, blah, blah. So when you start doing those kind of comparisons, you're just putting a target on his back, basically.
Especially when you're comparing Callum Smith, who's from a weight division below, fighting a guy who's in the right weight division, and it goes the distance. That shit happens, but like, he looks small to me going back to Yard. That guy looks small. So it's a different thing. That comparison's a bad comparison. And the AJ thing is just like, just leave it alone, it will come. Like, if this guy's good, it will just come naturally.
Yeah. Anything else? Have you seen any Daniel Dubois Naoto?
No, I have not.
You should, though, because he is like a proper, kind of Jack Dempsey throwback heavyweight.
Oh, yeah. I'll have to check some footage of him out there. Maybe when his next fight is coming up, I'll go back and
he looks like
fights.
A proper heavyweight, like you say, Cam. Like it's the right. He doesn't look too bulky. He looks got that. He's a big. The problem is he's young, so he might get bigger and bigger. But I hope he doesn't, because he seems to have enough. He seems a little bit more athletic than Joshua, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean he should. Even nowadays, just a disciplined heaveweight can be a serious factor in the division. Just a disciplined one. Forget all.
If you can move a bit, if you can move and hit punch in that division, you could be king.
Yeah.
If you've got the power, though, you need that power, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's gotten to the point now where you do need a little bit something special, considering there are a couple of guys that can really bang.
Yeah. No. Absolutely right. Just quickly, there was a undercard fight that was on Box Nation. It didn't happen on the BT card, but Joe Mullender versus Lee Church, middleweight. That was a really fun fight. Church are just showing everything that Rigo hasn't got, man. He was down multiple times. I think he twisted his ankle at one point. He was still continuing, but the kind of ref saved him in the 11th when he kind of just took too many shots and too many knockdowns. But it was just a tough dude, man, who had no quit in him. Mullender was pretty decent, just kind of walking him down, classic kind of brawling style. But that's about it for that card. Let me have a look. What else? I was mentioning on Friday regarding Chemo's cousin Ahmed Elbiali. He fought Jean Pascal in Florida, and as I predicted, Pascal got the win and decided to retire. It was an okay fight, very wild, a lot of hooks, a lot of clinching and kind of brawling and wrestling a bit, but no jab at all, and that obviously led to Elbiali not basically controlling his stamina, just gassing out. Even, towards the end of the 5th, he was tired, and in the 6th, he basically had nothing left. Pascal saw that, jumped on him, put him in the corner, was unleashing shots on him, and I think the ref decided to stop it also. But I think his corner at one point threw the towel in as well. So props to Pascal. I think Elbiali's team. It's kind of stepped him up with the wrong person. Even though I thought Pascal was kind of shot, he just had enough left against Elbiali. Elbiali didn't really show enough through, the fights he's had so far that he could handle someone like the Jean Pascal. And the commentary was saying it's like when Pascal fought B-Hop, he was fighting the professor, and the table was on a turn. Pascal had too much knowledge, too much ability. I think it still is the well, even with Pascal's age, and he also had experience, which you can't buy experience, man. That you have to put the hard work in to gain that. And Elbiali's didn't have any type of experience to go in a ring with Jean Pascal. So, Naota, I know you saw this fight. Anything to add?
Yeah, the wily vet. He just managed to kind of gut himself through it against Elbiali, the young upstart and everything. Elbiali, man, just hands too low. Had he kept his hands up, he might have been able to finish the job there against Pascal, but he kind of fell in, with his hands low and paid for it. You can't be doing that against a guy that punches as hard as Jean Pascal, regardless of how old he is, regardless of how worn he is. Whatever, man. He made a big mistake, big misjudgment there.
He had a decent chin. He took some flush counter right hands off Pascal. I remember Elbiali would shoot a 1-2. Pascal would just dip to his left hand side and shoot the right straight back. And he took the shots. There was no really part of the fight where he was stunned. It was more fatigue that got to him. Yeah. No, that's true. But I mean, there's fatigue from getting punched over and over again as well. Yeah,
and really, he should have at least kept his hands up after he started getting hit the first couple of times, because I'd imagine, regardless of how good your chin is, you think you know what, that kind of hurts. Maybe I should avoid taking some more of those. But he didn't make that adjustment. He paid for it. So who knows? Maybe he'll learn from this and become a factor later on. But I don't know. It's kind of tough to see if he wasn't able to do it just in the midst of the moment.
Yep. Any other fights you guys saw over the weekend? I'll take that as a no.
That's pretty much it.
Leon, this week we've seen the announcement of Kell Brook versus Sergei Rabchenko. Are you hyped?
Who's that guy again?
He's
fighting? Who's he fought? Why do I know the name?
He fought Tony Harrison in New York. He's trained by Ricky Hatton, and he also fought Anthony Modine in Australia. But I never saw that. Didn't he? Yeah, I never saw that fight, but a lot of people said he won it. But then he basically got robbed. But I've never seen the fight, so it's hard for me to say. But he was pretty shit about Harrison. I remember that because he couldn't cut the ring off. His right hand was shit. Tony Harrison was outboxing him, and he got to him in the ninth. So. Not a great opponent for your first step up to 54, but looking at Eddie's tactics, it's probably a safe opponent because Brook probably won't get touched up. Those eye sockets will be okay for one fight until he throws him in with a lion again, I think.
Yeah, it's a typical Eddie return fight. It doesn't do anything really. Yeah. For me, let's just see if he gets himself into position to be able to fight some good fights again. That's the only takeaway from that fight.
Yeah.
Underwhelming.
Neilton, your thoughts on Kelly Brook's comeback fight?
Relatively calculated kind of comeback fight. Brook should win. I expect Brook to win. Rabchenko will probably give him, a couple of moments here and there, of quote unquote trouble, in terms of stylistically speaking. But I think Brook can and should be able to defeat this guy. I'm not sure how good he's going to look, though. I think he might be a little bit tentative and hesitant in the early goings of it. But I think once he gets into a rhythm, he'll be able to just be superior to him.
Yep. All right. Any other news you guys have seen over the weekend? The only thing I saw was the injury to Eric Skoglund. I think I read that after a sparring session, he started to feel ill, went home, and then ended up going to the hospital and had to have an operation immediately to
induce coma, wasn't it?
Yeah, was it for a brain bleed?
Yeah.
So that's terrible news, man. Because
Horrible.
he was he really impressed me against Callum Smith, and I was hoping like we'll get to see him again. Or I think he was supposed to fight on the Elbiali card against someone decent. I remember he had a good fight lined up. I can't remember the opponent, but yeah, it's a real shame, and I thought so with his family, man. We hope he makes a recovery. But anything else you guys have seen?
Nah, nothing else.
You know what we forgot to cover?
Go
Luis
ahead.
Ortiz.
I didn't even see that shit.
Oh yeah, well he scored a second round knockout, big left hand. He right after he scored the knockout against what was that guy's name? Mountain Man Daniel Martz. He went right over to he wouldn't even move out of the way. Like the ref was trying to get him to move out of the way so they could like give medical attention to Martz because he was knocked out right there. And like Ortiz was like still like standing over the guy and looking through the ropes at Wilder like, I want you next and all that stuff. And then in the aftermath, Wilder went into the ring. He kind of did like like what Tyson Fury did to him. And, Ortiz was speaking through the interpreter. He was saying, like, I'm ready for you. I'm ready for you whenever you want. And then, the interpreter was kind of translating what Wilder was saying back to Ortiz. And Wilder was saying, like, yeah, I want you. I blessed you the first time by giving you a fight. And now I'm going to bless you again by giving you this rematch. I'm giving you a second chance. I'm going to bless you with it. And Ortiz kept saying, like I'll fight you whenever, wherever, right now. And like, because Wilder was like, when you want it. He's like, I'll fight you right now. And then Deontay Wilder, like as it got for a little bit further on, the woman that was interviewing him, like she was kind of asking both of them different questions, and Wilder said like, I'm gonna like you better be ready because I'm gonna whoop your ass. And I guess through the translator it probably sounded even more harsh than the way that Wilder said it. And then while Ortiz was like, oh, like his expression changed right after like the interpreter like translated that point, and he said, oh yeah, motherfucker, you a bitch. At that point, like what do you call it? The interviewer lady, she like shot it back over to the guys in the commentary and like, oh, we apologize for the profane language and blah blah blah. But it was just really amusing. I still really like that fight, man, and I really want to see it. And I think Ortiz, like, he has that mentality, even just going off of the psychology of the way that he was acting in that interview and everything. That he's going for Wilder's head. He's coming for his head, and Ortiz, regardless of how old he is and everything, I think he's not going to do what Rigo did against Lomachenko. Put it that way. I think he's going to go in there, put it all on the line, go out in the shield if he has to, and he definitely believes in his power, and he's going to do his damnedest to make it count against Wilder. And if he does it, then shit, that'd be a huge win, huge win. Probably one of the, if not the biggest win for a former Cuban, amateur fighter. Like not even really an amateur star because he wasn't really an accomplished star. He was the guy behind. He was pretty much Odlanir Solis's sparring partner in the amateurs, in the Cuban system. But it'd be a huge win for him if he did it. And I think it's a great fight.
I actually don't see that fight happening. I just don't. There's something about it where even if it gets made, some shit will happen, man. Something will happen.
Yeah, I'm actually really suspicious about how the first fight didn't happen as well. I really am, considering the fact that like all of a sudden he's cleared to fight Wilder again. Like almost like there was like a certain, conspiracy alert.
There was a man in a
some
hat.
sort of collusion going on.
There was a man in a hat, Naota.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No. That was just, I just wanted to mention that, especially because it was a hilarious post-fight interview.
That was my question. Did it come the way you described it? It sounded a bit corny. Also, was it corny or was it kind of funny?
No, it was funny. It was funny. Yeah, okay. Maybe I just didn't describe it right, but it was really entertaining when I actually saw it because I didn't expect Ortiz to suddenly speak English like that. But like he looked definitely perturbed at the fact that Wilder straight up said that I'm going to beat your ass.
It's good that people always know swear words in other languages. It's always funny.
Yeah. He knew just that much that he like it got like to me. It's like at that point it's like where he said like, you know what, fuck, even though I don't know very much English, I'm gonna speak it right now just to show this motherfucker that I'm not some dumb immigrant. You know what I mean? I'm gonna show him what's what. So yeah, it was interesting.
All right, should we start previewing this upcoming week, when I looked at the schedule yesterday, it seems like a lot of boxers contacted the managers and said, I want a payday before Christmas so I can get fat and eat turkey and eat sugar. So a lot of fights this week and quite a few next week as well. So should we get into it?
Yep.
All right, off the top, me and Kim already kind of talked about it, so you don't need my opinion. But you guys give me your thoughts on Lemieux versus Billy Joe Leon. I'll start with you.
50-50 fight, would you say? I think it is on paper. I mean, off the back of... I say I'd always rate Billy Joe higher, skill-wise, than Lemieux. But on their last showings, I'd say it's about 50-50. I think Billy Joe's got a decent chin, but, I mean, Lemieux can crack. So it's whether or not he can take his power, I think, to last the whole fight. Because I don't see, and I don't see him stopping Lemieux. So can he survive 12 without getting really badly caught?
What do you think, Nathan?
I mean, it's kind of tough for me to call. I get the sense that that Saunders will just be a little bit too quick for him and be just a step ahead of Lemieux the whole way and be able to win all points. Although, it's second place in Canada, so maybe Lemieux will get the benefit of the doubt if he manages to make some of those rounds close. Saunders, I think, even though he's kind of a hot and cold fighter, when he's up against a fighter that he senses a threat from, I think he really takes it seriously and he stays on his P's and Q's and does a good job of it, which I think he should be able to do against Lemieux, because Lemieux is just a little bit too telegraphed for me. But he does slow down. He does slow. I know he's quick in the beginning, but he definitely, that Andy Lee fight nearly got away from him, Cam. He's shown that in numerous fights. Yeah, I mean, he does, but I mean, even Lemieux, I mean, he has his moments where he looks like he might be a little bit winded. I mean, even against
that's true.
Against Glenn Tapia, there was a few times where Tapia caught him.
But I think it's also a bit psychological with Billy Joe. I think he can get too relaxed.
Yeah. This fight, honestly, to me, it's a tough way to call it because depending on how they both trained and depending on their mentality in the fight, I think will really prove how the fight actually turns out. So, I mean, if Lemieux, has that kind of... If he has, the Salido mentality of, never sit down, I'm going to come in there, I'm going to wreck this motherfucker, he might be able to do it, even with Lemieux being on top of his game. And if Lemieux's not on top of his game, then watch out, because Lemieux absolutely believes in his power, and he's going to put everything into every single one of those shots.
It's a good fight.
Which will be his downfall, because he'll gas himself out, and it'll be easy pickings for Billy Joe. I'm not the biggest Billy Joe fan, but as Naota says, I think when he's fighting someone good, you see the best of Billy Joe, and we saw his physique against Willie Monroe. He was in good shape. The fight wasn't the greatest, but he won it quite easily. And I think a come forward guy throwing wide hooks, wide punches is going to be perfect for him. I think he'll be able to pick him off, and I think he'll win it quite easily. I don't think he'll stop Lemieux, but I think it'll be like a 10-2, 9-3 kind of fight, I think. Yeah, that's it for me. Undercard-wise, there is a decent fight, Leon. Spike O'Sullivan, he's fighting Antonio Douglas. Remember Douglas from a really good fight he had against Kurtzidis last year?
Oh, yeah.
He did take a beating, but he's shown a lot of heart and promise in that fight. Yeah, he's fighting Spike O'Sullivan. That should be pretty good. It's on the undercard.
That could be pretty good. I mean, Spike can punch a bit, so it'd be interesting to see if he can take it.
Yeah.
But he's basic as fuck, isn't he, really? But
he is, but yeah, it's still a decent undercard.
He brings it.
He does, yeah. Neota, you want to add anything about that fight, or should we move on?
No, it's a good fight. Good fight. Between two guys that are just, kind of those B-level guys. I'd slightly favor Douglas to win it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I mentioned with Kimo also why Jeff Horn and Gary Corcoran was on a Wednesday. I did shout out to our friend Bill in New Zealand. He did reply to me and he said he had no idea. And we both agreed that it's a shame that Team Horn have kind of lost a bit of that momentum they gained after that great win against Pacquiao. It's like they've kind of gone backwards a bit. Yeah, you've got a world title, but you're fighting on a Wednesday against a terrible opponent. What have you really achieved?
Wednesday.
I
I don't know. Maybe it's the
Wednesday.
beginning. Maybe like school's out in Australia or something. And,
School's out for summer or for winter.
It's a minority
Yeah.
sport there, Cam. They've got the Ashes are going on. It doesn't mean anything, you know.
Yeah, but still, man, I think they could have done a better a job with the just picking the opponent. Like, choose
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
Everything about it's bad.
yeah, I've got nothing to add. Have you guys?
No,
It's free to
Horn-
air on the Box Nation, though, isn't it? So they obviously don't give a shit about
Yeah,
it.
but imagine the live ratings. Like, it's only going to be like
Yeah, nothing.
people that work from home or people unemployed that are going to be watching that show at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday.
Exactly.
Katie Taylor.
Shit, it's gonna be on at like 2 in the morning for me. So that's
You're not watching that
I'll
one
be able to
live, are
catch
you?
it. no. I'll be able to.
Oh shit!
I'll
Oh
be
yeah,
up-
you'd be
I'll be up
working
at
it
that time.
if it's a quiet day.
Yeah,
at
it's
work.
when that's like normally like Japanese program at time too. So you know I'm on it.
Yeah, man. Your body clock is built for that shit. But on the Wednesday, but in the evening in the UK, Katie Taylor makes her first defense of the strap she won a couple of weeks ago against Jessica Pascal. The undercard at the Yoke Hall is basically all of Hearn's up and comers. I've not really got anything to add, to be honest. It's just a classic next gen almost type of card that we're gonna have.
Yeah, zero interest.
Yep. What else have we got? There's a decent card on Friday. FS1, I think. The return. We've not seen him for a while over here, anyway, or over in the States. Diego Chavez, he's fighting Jamal James. John Molina Jr. is fighting Ivan Redkach, and Jesse Vargas makes his PBC debut against Aaron Herrera. Nailed not a bad overall card for December, close to the end of the year.
Yeah. I like the card. I really like Chavez versus James. That's a good. I think Chavez is gonna fucking light James up. Honestly, though, James is he's a very tall, rangy fighter that has no fucking clue of how to use that range, and I think Chavez is gonna knock his ass out. Vargas versus Herrera. I mean, to me, that's a pretty clear win for Vargas. I think he'll score a knockout over Herrera.
Yeah.
He's a chinny fighter. He's been knocked out in all of his step-up fights.
It's almost a kind of showcase. It's a kind of showcase, isn't it, for him?
Yeah, it's a good look to see where Vargas stands. Molina versus Redkach is actually a pretty competitive fight because Molina can be outboxed by just about everybody. His skill level is very low, but he can punch his ass off. He's one of the he's like if you were to make a pound for pound hardest punchers list, he'd have to be on there. And I mean it's one of those things where I could see a pretty tense fight all the way through because you don't know if and when Molina might light Redkach up. And Redkach isn't necessarily a defensively great fighter. He's defensively competent, so he could be outboxing Molina on the way over there. Although Molina actually, he developed some pretty good boxing skills recently, in spite of the loss to Terrence Crawford, where I actually feel like he was drained for that fight. Which I don't even know what weight this is taking place at. Molina and Redkach, is it 140?
Molina Redkach.
Oh shit! You know what? It's 135. Damn. Ugh, I think that's gonna be tough for Molina to make. But
Molina's gonna be a skeleton on the scales.
Yeah, he's a big guy. I see. I'm not sure if it's gonna be televised, but Wale Omotoso, Lucky Boy, he's gonna be fighting against Freddie Hernandez. That's a good fight. I think that'll be kind of one of those kind of gritty, low key wars between the two of them. I think Omotoso would knock out Hernandez though. And I think that's the whole of the PBC card. It's a pretty good little card. I think there'll be some fun action in there.
Yep. On Friday also we got Alexander Povetkin against Christian Hammer. I'm done with Povetkin, man. If you multiple times where he's been pot producing, man, I'll probably still watch it, because I'm a bum, but respect the sport a bit, You want to become world champion, you want to fight the type of guys, then, train effectively, train properly. There's rules in place. Just follow them, man. It's not difficult.
Don't waste our time on him at the moment. It's just a fucking joke. He's fucked up too many fights, man.
Yeah. If it wasn't for Ortiz, possibly, and who knows, maybe if Ortiz doesn't fight Wilder, like I said before, I'll say it again, man. Ortiz versus Povetkin, no testing. Give them the drugs. Just let them do whatever they want. And let's see some fucking King Kong versus Godzilla shit in there, man. Like seriously, like let's see some. I want to see like people ringside like dying from the wind of the punches shit. Like gladiator. Fuck the 3-minute rounds. Just like fight until one of the two of them collapses.
Doghouse.
Yeah, doghouse. Put that motherfucker in the doghouse.
Ah, shit. In France, we had Tony Yoka against a TBA, according to ESPN. They probably found an opponent by now, hopefully, unless they're gonna just pull someone out on a Friday night. Fingers crossed they don't do that. But Naota, your boy CP Freshmart Knockout is fighting Toto Landro in Thailand.
You know what? I could have sworn that he was supposed to be fighting somebody else, but yeah, man. Looking forward to seeing my man knock out CP Freshmart once again. Let's see what he's got. Let's see. Landero, I don't know too much about. I'm trying to recall if I've even seen him before. I'm looking at his box rec right now for what it's worth. Okay, he defeated Vic Salvador. Vic Salvador is actually a pretty good fighter. Salvador is actually the guy that gave Acosta and Tanaka a really good fight. Was actually winning the fight when Tanaka knocked him out. That was, I think, Tanaka's first defense of his 105-pound belt. So, I mean, Landero's he's one of these guys that's kind of a contender level guy. Doesn't seem to have much power. He's only got 2 knockouts and 10 wins. To beat somebody like CP Freshmart, who's pretty consistent, very well conditioned. He's, like I've kind of said a few different times on this podcast, that you have to have that little something extra. You really have to. Should CP Freshmart win this, I'm pretty sure he's going to wind up having to fight Byron Rojas in a rematch, because Rojas is rated number 1. And honestly, I think Rojas arguably won the first fight, and I think there's a possibility that he could win the second one. The only thing is CP Freshmart in Thailand really gets a lot of benefit of the doubt with regards to the scoring. His last fight, I thought, was closer than the judges had it. Freshmart, I think will win this one. To me, this is a bit of a gimme for him.
That's about it for next week. Have you guys got anything fights to add that I've missed? I've seen stuff like Zlatkan's fighting, but it's an 8-rounder, and it's like, is there any point to mention it? But
there's on Thursday there's an ESPN2 card, a Golden Boy on ESPN2 card. It's got Diego De La Hoya as the main event. He's going to be fighting against one Jose Salgado. Jose Salgado is a guy that spent most of his career at super flyweight, where he was kind of a contender. I don't want to say a fringe contender, but he was a contender. He lost to his only losses were to high level guys though. He lost to Liborio Solis by split decision. He lost to he got a technical draw against Carlos Cuadras, but Cuadras won all 3 rounds up until it got called in the 4th round from head clashes. And then against Cesar Ketsurungvasai, he got knocked out in the 4th round. So, smaller guy moving up, guy that should probably be fighting at bantamweight more so than super bantam. I think Diego De La Hoya will pretty much be able to do it however he wants. He could beat him down, or he can outbox him, style on him, what have you. I think probably the most interesting fight on that card, considering the fact that flyweight area fighters tend to get moved pretty quickly, is actually a super flyweight clash between 12-0 Joshua Franco and Carlos Maldonado, who's 9-1 with 7 knockouts. Knockout artist versus kind of every bit of a blue chip prospect as you can get from a fighter in the flyweight divisions. He's a Mexican American guy from San Antonio, so he's an English speaker and everything. So I think there's something to be said for promotional value with regards to Franco if he's able to win that and then parlay that potentially into becoming one of those guys that may be at the very least an opponent on one of these like Superfly type cards on HBO.
I think you said parlay like 5 times today's show. I think it's your new favorite word.
Yeah, sometimes I'll latch onto something and it's in the rotation. It's in the Rolodex.
Leon, you want to mention anything else before we bounce?
I think because I watched Dwyer a bunch yesterday, so that
yeah, because he's always talking about betting, making your parlay bet.
You need to put the parlay, and the odds are ridiculous.
Leon, anything else?
Nah, man, I'm knackered.
You sound it as well. Naota, anything else?
Nah, that's it, man.
All right. Thank you to you guys. Thank you to all the people in the chat and all the people that download the show week in, week out. We'll be back next week. Peace.
Laters.
You just listened to the Boxing Coalition.
Oh, dude, man, I love boxing. I fucking love boxing.
A big shout out to the Boxing Coalition.
You're a newbie.
No, I ain't new, man.
If my fucking next door neighbour became the #1 flyweight in the world, you know what I'd do? I'd fucking walk past the cunt.
Derek, how you doing, bro?
I was physically banging, blood.
I disagree.
First time I hear the show, man, it was fucking badass.
Vamos a Argentina, la concha de su madre.
I see the bomb in them.
I get home and she's like, what the fuck? Me and the kid are here. Why don't you get home and talk to us? I'm like, man, you guys don't know shit about boxing.
Kel, how does it feel to be the new IBF champion?
Feels great. Did we really dive into the black hole right off the jump? I think he's hiding glass.
Just to play devil's advocate.
You want 1 portion of crow or 2 portions of crow?
Give me 2 portions with a supersized fries and a large drink, please.
I can't stand him, what? I'm Scottish.
Cringe side?
But you won't rush Anthony fucking fat ass Joshua, would you?
He's not fat.
How about you tell us what you weigh for your final thoughts?
My weight?
Thank you for listening to the Boxing Coalition. We are live every Monday, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. UK time, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern.